There are strange things done in the midnight sun by the men who moil for gold. The Arctic trails have the secret sails that would make your blood run cold. The northern lights have seen strange sights, but the strangest they ever did see was that night on the marge of Lake Laborde. I cremated Sam McGee. Now Sam McGee was from Tennessee, where the cotton blooms and blows, while he left his home in the south to roam round the pole, God only knows. He was always cold, but the land of gold seemed to hold him like a spell, though he'd often say in his homely way that he'd sooner live in hell. On a Christmas day we were mushing our way over the Dawson Trail. Talk of your cold through the Parker's fold, it stabbed like a driven nail. If our eyes we'd closed and the lashes froze till sometimes we couldn't see. It wasn't much fun, but the only one to whimper was Sam McGee. And that very night as we lay packed tight in our robes beneath the snow, and our dogs were fed and the stars o'erhead were dancing heel and toe, he turned to me and cat says he, I'll cash in this trip I guess, and if I do I'm asking that you won't refuse my last request. Well, he seemed so low that I couldn't say no. Then he says with a sort of moan, it's a cursed cold and it's got right hold till I'm chilled clean through to the bone. Yet ain't being dead, it's my awful dread of the icy grave that pains. So I want you to swear that foul or fair you'll cremate my last remains. A pal's last need is a thing to heed, so I swore I would not fail. And we started on at the streak of dawn, but God, he looked ghastly pale. He crouched on the sleigh and he raved all day of his home in Tennessee. And before nightfall a corpse was all that was left of Sam McGee. Hey! There wasn't a breath in that land of death, and I hurried horror-driven, with a corpse half hid that I couldn't get rid because of a promise given. It was lashed to the sleigh and it seemed to say, you may tax your brawn and brains, but you promised true and it's up to you to cremate those last remains. Now a promise made is a debt unpaid, and the trail has its own stern code. In the days to come, though my lips were dumb, in my heart how I curse that load. In the long, long night, by the low firelight, while the huskies round in a ring howled out their woes to the homeless snows. Oh God, how I loathe the thing. And every day that quiet place seemed to heavy and heavier grow. And on I went, though the dogs were spent and the grub was getting low. The trail was bad and I felt half mad, but I swore I would not give in. And I'd often sing to the hateful thing, and I hearkened with a grin. Till I came to the marge of Lake Laborde, and a derelict there lay. It was jammed in the ice and I saw in a trice it was called the Alice May. And I looked at it and I thought a bit, and I looked at my frozen chum. Then here said I with a sudden cry is the crematorium. From the cabin floor, and I lit the boiler fire. Some coal I found that was lying around, and I hit the fuel high. The flames just soared, and the furnace roared. Such a blaze you seldom see. And I burrowed a hole in the glowing coal, and I stuffed in Sam McGee. So, and the heavens scowled, and the huskies howled, and the wind began to blow. It was icy cold, but the hot sweat rolled down my cheeks, and I don't know why. And the greasy smoke and an inky cloak went streaking down the sky. I do not know how long in the snow I wrestled with grisly fear, but the stars came out and they danced about. Here again I ventured near. I was sick with dread, but I bravely said I'll just take a peep inside. I guess he's cooked and it's time I looked, and the door I opened wide, and there sat Sam looking cool and calm in the heart of the furnace roar. And he wore a smile, you could see a mile, and he said, please close that door. It's fine in here, but I greatly fear you'll let in the cold and storm. Since I left Plumtree down in Tennessee, it's the first time I've been warm. There are strange things done in the midnight sun by the men boil for gold. The Arctic trails have the secret tales that would make your blood run cold. The northern lights have seen strange sights, but the strangest they ever did see was that night on the marge of Lake LaBarge. I cremated Sam McGee. The summer is past, but your days keep growing longer. There's no wind in your sails, but the storm's blowing stronger. Walking hard, standing tall, keeping your head up through it all. Fighting fires, spinning plates. Goodness, how did it get so late? Lay your head down and dream. Lay your head down and dream. Lay your head down and dream. Lay your head down and just let your mind flow downstream. Spread out in a moonbeam. Lay your head down and dream.
Joe Hills is filmed before a live streaming audience.
That's us. Howdy, y'all. Joe Hills here, recording as I always do in Nashville, Tennessee, and tonight y'all are my live streaming audience. as you can see, we are looking at the side of our pinball machine. It's looking pretty darn good. We are making some fantastic progress there. But tonight, that is not going to be the focus. No, siree. We are going to be putting the Drac in Dracula, Chapter 27, the finale. That's right. I said we. It's me. It's also my beloved betrothed, the fantastic Badger Spanner, all the way from London, England.
Hello.
Howdy, Badger. I'm going to turn you up just a wee bit in the mix. Okay, go ahead and say howdy again if you don't mind.
I'm going to talk exactly like this. This will be the tone in which I speak and the exact volume.
Friend
La, la, la.
John, I see that you have found Badger Spanner to speak
And now I
into...
can't hear you.
What? Oh, you can't hear me because I got to change push to talk off because I'm flexing doing the Van Helsing voice. Okay. We're getting we're getting this going. Okay.
Magic time.
So, for those of y'all, I don't need to hold down the push to talk button anymore. So I'm not sure why the voice chat mod is broken on Hermitcraft right now, but that shouldn't matter because I don't want anybody bugging us during Dracula anyway. That's A-okay in my book. The actual project we will be working on during the stream will not be the pixel art. Because, wow, that is way too much.
Take up so much brain energy for you.
I will be overwhelmed. I will be overwhelmed, absolutely. And
Your whelms will be over.
nobody wants that, you know.
When have you ever been whelmed? Because you can be underwhelmed and you can be overwhelmed, but can you be whelmed?
There is a hammer named Whelm. I have not been hit with it, but I have heard of folks being hit by Whelm. Now, fun fact, Whelm has actually, despite being a legendary hammer of great renown and magical power, Whelm has actually been married to a regular, carpenter's hammer, happily for 30 years. And he was asked about this in an interview and answered simply, "He makes me laugh." So, okay, where are we going here? I'm putting all my blocks away. Put my blocks into shulkers. I don't have no remorse. Okay, we're going to put all the blocks into this shulker here. And then we're going to grab some empty shulkers, and we are going to be working on mining out some bits of our broader area, grabbing some stone. There's always hermits who need stone, and there's always me who needs to be removing it from my pinball machine. So this is one of those things like we're going to... The broader stone removal is not an urgent project that has to be done tonight. I admit that, but this is something chill I can do while I read Dracula without, failing to read Dracula. Also, there's a lot of Van Helsing bits. A lot of Van Helsing bits in this.
Yeah, you're going to need all the help you can get for this one.
Yeah, I really appreciate Badger coming in and reading the Mina bits, as well as... I don't think Godalming has any lines in here, but if he does, Badger will be handling those as well. So thank you, Badger.
Yeah, as Joe was saying that he'd read the chapter this time round to make sure that how much was in it, or at least scanned it. And he was like, I think people are going to be kind of underwhelmed.
Well, it's one of those things like I don't think it was
Bram Stoker just didn't know what he had.
Well, the thing is that I feel like the way Bram Stoker wrote the ending to this book, I don't think he knew people would be reading it a century from now. I think he's like, okay, I better wrap this up. What's a good way to end a story? And he's like, he's just like, okay, yeah, I'll just, but it doesn't
just write it in.
Yeah. I felt
Call it in.
Yeah, but I'm not saying that y'all should give up and walk away. Go watch The Owl House or whatever. I think it's still a good story, and it's part of the Western canon that's worth being familiar with. But yeah, it's definitely one of those things where, I've seen there's a lot of film adaptations and adaptations of this that really ramp up the stakes in this. Iberon says Joe knows what Owl House is. No, I have no freaking clue what Owl House is. But everybody keeps saying I can't come to your Dracula thing because there's an Owl House, and I'm like, okay. Thanks. That you don't have to tell me you're not coming. You can just not come. I don't know what an owl house is, and I have less of an incentive to learn than ever. because I'm forever going to associate it with people skipping the Dracula finale. You know, we're week 27. You want to go watch an Owl House? That's fine. You want to go to bed? That's fine. Lay your head down and dream, but you don't have to tell me.
Fair enough.
Okay, so
Are you good now?
I'm fine. I'm actually fine.
Are you, Owl House?
Okay, let me make sure I've got all the chats open because I was setting up Badger in Discord, so I actually clicked away from the live event chat for a minute. Let me make sure I've got that. Okay. Here we go. So we are, I think, maybe ready to get started, and then because I know you're on English time, which is it's late there. It's what 2:47 in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
So I'll go ahead and bring us in. Chapter 27 is pinned everywhere. Chapter 27, Mina Harker's journal.
1st of November. All day long we have travelled, and at good speed. The horses seem to know that they are being kindly treated, for they go willingly their full stage at best speed. We have now so many challenges, and find the same thing, so constantly that we are encouraged to think that the journey will be an easy one. Dr. Van Helsing is laconic. He tells the farmers he is hurrying to Bistritz, and pays them well to make the exchange of horses. We get hot soup, or coffee, or tea, and off we go. It's a lovely country, full of beauties, all imaginable kinds. And the people are brave and strong and simple, and seem full of nice qualities. They are very, very superstitious. In the first house where we stopped, when the woman who served us saw the scar on my forehead, she crossed herself and put out 2 fingers towards me to keep off the evil eye. I believe they went to the trouble of putting an extra amount of garlic into our food. I can't abide garlic. Ever since then, I have taken care not to take off my hat or veil, so I have escaped their suspicions. We are travelling fast, and as we have no driver to carry us to carry tales, we go ahead of scandal. But I dare say that the fear of the evil eye will follow hard behind us all the way. The professor seems tireless. All day he would not take any rest, though he made me sleep for a long spell. At sunset time he hypnotized me. He says that I answered as usual, darkness, lapping water, and creaking wood. So our enemy is still on the river. I am afraid to think of Jonathan, but somehow I have no fear for him, or for myself. I write this while we wait in a farmhouse for the horses to be got ready. Dr. Van Helsing is sleeping. Poor dear. He looks very tired and old and grey, but his mouth is set as firmly as a conqueror's. Even in his sleep, he is instinct with revolution. When we have well started, I must make him rest while I drive. I shall tell him that we have days before us, and we should not break down when most of all of his strength will be needed. All is ready. We are off shortly. 2nd of November, morning. I was successful, and we took turns driving all night. Now the day is on us, brightened though cold. There is a strange heaviness in the air. I say heaviness for want of a better word. I mean that it oppresses us both. It is very cold, and only our warm furs keep us comfortable. At dawn, Van Helsing hypnotized me. He says I answered, darkness, creaking wood, and roaring water. So the river is changing as they ascend. I do hope my darling will not run any chance of danger, more than need be. But we are in God's hands. 2nd November, night. All day long driving. The country gets wilder as we go, and the great spurs of the Carpathians, which at Varestes seemed so far from us and so low on the horizon, now seem to gather around us and tower in front. We both seem in good spirits. I think we make an effort to each other cheer the other. In doing so, we cheer ourselves. Dr. Van Helsing says by morning we shall reach the Borgo Pass. The houses are very few here now, and the professor says this will be the last horse we will have to go on with us, as we may not be able to change. He got 2 in addition of the 2 that we had changed, so now we have a rude 4 in hand. The 2 horses are patient and good, and they give us no trouble. We are not worried with other travellers, so even I can drive. We shall get to the pass in daylight. We do not want to arrive before, so we take it easy and each have a long rest in turn. Oh, what will tomorrow bring us? We go to seek the place where my poor darling suffered so much. God grant that we be guided aright, and that he will deign to watch over my husband, for those dear to us both, and who are in such deadly peril. As for me, I am not worthy in his sight. Alas, I am unclean to his eyes, and I shall be until he may deign to let me stand forth in his light as one of those who has not incurred his wrath.
And that concludes the Mina Harker journal part from 2nd November night. Thank you very much, Badger, for joining us. For those of you just coming in, this is my beautiful, beloved, betrothed Badger Spanner reading the Mina bits of Dracula chapter 27. We've been reading this for 27 weeks now. And we're coming to the end. I'm so excited. We've got a couple tips rolling in. I want to thank people for maybe more than a couple. Poster Nerd tips 15 and writes, Joe's Dracula finale is a must hear. # no owl house. So thank you, Poster Nerd. That puts us 5 away from our next Face Giver expansion. Then William rolls in and tips 10. That gets us $5 past that milestone. So here, that first milestone. So here we go. Please direct your attention to slot 9, where I'm putting the hot in the hot bar, so I can say howdy, y'all. Grow Hills here, expanding as I always do in Nashville, Tennessee. Dee-da-dee-da-dee, dee-da-dee-da-dee-dee-dee. Meanwhile, unlimited creativity on the YouTube chat, tipping a full 20. That gets us 5 past the next milestone. Writes, praying for all of y'all's happiness. That's so generous of you. Here we go.
So many people to pray for your happiness for. Wow.
I know. So, give me the people gonna pray for their souls, or at least their happiness, like Lucy West and Roe. I don't know what I'm doing. Expand the joke. We're gonna expand the camera there. Boom. To our second stage, second milestone. The WMEs. Rating with a party of 7. Welcome. We are reading Dracula, chapter 27. You're coming in on literally the last chapter of Bram Stoker's Dracula. The link to that is pinned in both chats. We just got some tips. We are now $15 away from the next Face Gamer expansion milestone. Tips are welcome via paypal.me/Joe Hills and YouTube Super Chat. So, here we go. Van Helsing has a couple memorandums here. Good old Brammy Stokes couldn't end his book.
Praying for your happiness, Joe.
Thank you for praying for my happiness. Good old Brammy Stokes couldn't wrap up his book without giving Van Helsing a lot of first-person parts. So I hope that you are excited. The other Badger, not my fiance, but Badger Diggs, says, I haven't missed a single Dracula stream. This has been keeping me going all year. Oh, boy.
Aww.
I am glad to help in whatever small way I can, but really, you've been the one keeping you going, and I'm proud of you, Diggs. That is good for you. It's been a hard year for a lot of people. So, yeah, I'm happy to help in the small ways I can here and there, but you deserve the real credit. So I'm not going to take that from you. Oh, is there a Santa Loves You box here? I literally have not seen that. Ooh, there's an Axolotl Shop gift card. I should put that in my next episode. I had no idea that was there. Okay. So, for the next bit, reading Bram Stoker's self-insert character, Abraham Van Helsing. Let me tell you, I am not going to be able to mine while I do this. We're gonna. I'm gonna push the microphone a little bit further away. Do 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 do. And we're gonna start reading. Van Helsing bit. I'll move the mouse soon when I can. I cannot play Minecraft while I read this part. We are already at the finale, Nin. We are already at the finale. That's right. Okay. Wait, if I move the mic there, it's blocking the chat. Let me do this. Okay. What if I just move myself back? Okay. Badger, you can still hear me okay, right?
Yep, I can hear you absolutely fine.
Okay, tell me if I'm clipping. Memorandum by Abraham Van Helsing.
You sound fine.
4th November. Well, I sound fine now. This is to my old and true friend, John Seward, medical doctor of Purfleet, London. In case I might not see him, it may explain. It is morning, and I write by a fire which all the night I have kept alive, Madam Mina aiding me. It is cold, cold, so cold that the grey, heavy sky is full of snow, which, when it falls, will settle for all winter, as the ground is hardening to receive it. It seems to have affected Madam Mina. She has been so heavy of head all day that she was not like herself. She sleeps and sleeps and sleeps. She, who is usual so alert, have done literally nothing all the day. She have even lost her appetite. She make no entry into her little diary. She who write so faithful at every pause. Something whisper to me that all is not well. However, tonight she is more vif. Her long sleep all day have refresh and restore her, for now she is all sweet and bright as ever. At sunset I try to hypnotize her, but alas, with no effect. The power have grown less and less with each day, and tonight it failed me altogether. Well, God's will be done, whatever it may be, and whithersoever it may lead. Now, to the historical, for as Madam Mira write it not in her stenography, I must, in my cumbrous old fashion, that so each day of us may not go unrecorded. We got to the Burgo Pass just after sunrise yesterday morning. When I saw the signs of the dawn, I got ready for the hypnotism. We stopped our carriage and got down so that there might be no disturbance. I made a couch with furs, and Madam Mina, laying down, yield herself as usual, but more slow and more short time than ever to the hypnotic sleep. As before came the answer. Badger.
Darkness and swirling of water.
Then she woke, bright and radiant, and we go on our way, and soon reach the pass. At this time and place, she become all on fire with zeal. Some new guiding power be in her manifested,
for she point to a road and say,
This is the way.
How know you it?
Of course I know it. Have not Jonathan travelled it and wrote of his travel?
At first I think it somewhat strange, but soon I see there be only one such by-road. It is used but little, and very different from the coach road from Bukovina to Bistritz, which is more wide and more of use. So we came down this road when we meet other ways. Not always were we sure they were roads at all, for they be neglect, and light snow have fallen. The horses know, and know only. I give rein to them, and they go on, so patient. By and by, we find all the things which Jonathan have note in that wonderful diary of him. Then we go on for long, long hours and hours. At first, I tell Madam Mina to sleep. She try, and she succeed. She sleep all the time, till at the last I feel myself too suspicious grow, and attempt to wake her. But she sleep on, and I may not wake her, though I try. I do not wish to try too hard, lest I harm her, for I know that she have suffer much, and sleep at times be all in all to her.
Okay, sorry. We got to sleep in Minecraft too? Sleep's going to be all in all to me if I start getting hit by creepers on this little thing here. Real quick, also, I want to thank Jackie Ann for tipping 5, who says, great reading as always, and congratulations to you both. For those of you who are coming in late and might be like, what? Congratulations for what? Badger's Banner is my beautiful, beloved betrothed. So thank you for the congratulations on our engagement, Jackie Ann, and for supporting the show. So you said there was a tiny bit of clipping, but it's okay?
Yeah, no, it's absolutely fine. It's when you're literally like throwing your arms around.
Okay.
It
Yep. Okay, so some people are reading ahead, I see, in the chat. Yeah, this scene is pretty climactic. We're getting there. Just be patient. I'm going to take another sip because these Van Helsing bits take a lot out of me.
big sip. Big sip. Wash it all down.
Yeah. It's what is it?
Prepare
Not the
your
bite
throat.
and smile, I guess, when you're drinking a drink in a commercial, but you know, like the refreshing. Okay, so here we go. Does Asuma know that they're engaged? Fally has a video of it, actually, of when he found out. But okay, let's move on. Sleep at times be all in all to her.
I think I douse myself, for all of a sudden I feel guilt, as though I have done something. I find myself bolt up with the reins in my hand, and the good horses go along, jog, just as ever. I look down and find Madam Mina still asleep. It is now not far off sunset time, and over the snow the light of the sun in big yellow flood, so that we throw great long shadow on where the mountain rise so steep, for we are going up, and all is so wild and rocky, as though it were the end of the world. Then I rouse Madam Mina. This time she wake with not much trouble, and then I try to put her to hypnotic sleep, but she sleep not, being as though I were not. Still, I try and try, till all at once I find her and myself in the dark. So I look around and find that the sun have gone down. Madam Mina laugh, and I turn and look at her. She is now quite awake, and looks so well as I never saw her since that night at Carfax when we first entered the Count's house. I am amazed and not at ease then, but she is so bright and tender and thoughtful for me, I forget all fear. I light a fire, for we have brought supply of wood with us, and she prepare food while I undo the horses and set them, tethered in shelter, to feed. Then, when I return to the fire, she have my supper ready. I go to help her, but she smile and tell me she have eat already, that she was so hungry that she would not wait. I like it not, and I have grave doubts, but I fear to affright her, and so I am silent of it. She help me, and I eat alone. Then we wrap in fur and lie beside the fire, and I tell her to sleep while I watch. But presently I forget all of watching, and when I sudden remember that I watch, I find her lying quiet, but awake, and looking at me with so bright eyes. Once, twice more the same occur, and I get much sleep till before morning. When I wake, I try to hypnotize her, but alas, though she shut her eyes obedient, she may not sleep. The sun rise up and up and up, and then sleep come to her too late, but so heavy that she will not wake. I have to lift up and place her sleeping in the carriage, when I have harnessed the horses and made all ready. Madame still sleep, and she look in her sleep more healthy and more redder than before, and I like it not. I am afraid. I am afraid of all things, even to think, but I must go on my way. The stake we play is for life and death, or more than these, and we must not flinch.
Afraid.
That concludes the 4th November reading. Okay, we got a tip rolling in here from Elijah L. who tips 27 and says $27 for 27 Dracula nights. This has meant so much to me. I'm grateful. Thank you for being the artist you are. Thank you, Elijah L., for supporting the arts and my show in particular. That gets us 17 past our next face camera expansion milestone. So here we go. It's time to expand Joe.
Afraid Joe.
Everybody here is saying that they're like, wait, what did she eat? I'm very worried about what she ate. Was it a sandwich? What if it wasn't a sandwich?
If it was a horse.
Uh-oh.
Because sometimes you wake up and you're like, oh, I'm so hungry, I could eat a horse. There you go.
And so you do.
And they did have 4 of them, and they were becoming like a bit of a problem.
Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah. Nico says, "Cheers, Elijah." Clam Meditation says, "No, poor horsey." When you're that hungry, yeah, let's see.
A specific candy bar simply won't do.
Yeah, I was like, is there a way to make this joke without saying the name of a branded candy bar? Brandy, you're a fine bar. Oh boy. Have you heard my friend on Twitch he goes by Waff, but have you heard his parody of Brandy, You're a Fine Girl? That's about Oh, you have? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yes, I have.
It's so good.
It's very, very, very good.
Yeah. It's about a guy who like has a girl in his Japanese class who has a crush on him, but his love, his life, his lady is 2D, and it's about him having a waifu who's like a pillowcase or something. It's very funny.
Yep. It's very, very good.
There's a big difference between making fun of Japanese culture and making fun of people who attempt to appropriate and internalize it entirely.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very, very much so.
I don't have the lyrics to it, but that's the sort of thing we might read on future Saturday nights. Dave says, "That's brutal. I love it." A lot of people are like, "OMG, that sounds hilarious." Oh Lord.
Get him in on it as a musical guest.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see if any other tips roll in. I just need a second to recover before we move on to the 5th of November entry from Van Helsing, because, wow, the Van Helsing bits are kind of a lot.
Yeah, you've got quite a lot more to go.
There's
only a few bits that I break into as well for that.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is, like, I made a highly caffeinated drink for myself. This is Red Bull cut with orange juice to try and make it taste better. It doesn't. I don't know why I tried, but
Nice.
the problem is, if I'm not careful, I won't actually drink any of it until we're done with the Van Helsing parts, because I'm so busy reading the Van Helsing parts.
Yeah, and then you'll be like wide awake.
Then I'll be up until 3 a.m. I need this to get through the Van Helsing parts, but I'm not drinking it. I've just got it next to me. NJ says, "Oh no, ooh. I'm sorry, NJ. Sometimes when we read horror stories, there are gross things that go in my mouth." You know, it can't just be gross things coming out of my mouth when we read horror stories. It's, both ways. Both ways. Chloe the Great and Powerful, Tippin 27, says, "I will sadly yippee for one last Dracula. Thanks so much for reading this to us. It has made my week for 27 whole weeks." Let's see. So the first 3 is going to get you 1 expansion. 23 is going to get you another. And then 27 gets us 4 past that. So let's go ahead and process both of those expansions. Here we go. Expansion. Do. And then for that next one, y'all have seen that money go straight to my head. But now, like Jacob Marley, these chains I forged in life are about to begin pulling me down to the deep below. Enter the joust. Bum 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 bum. Lowering the opacity to 90%. Here we go. That is going to get us, once again, 16 away from the next face camera expansion milestone. Thank you so much to Chloe the Great and Powerful for supporting the show. NJ, I don't know what holds up finger meme is. Is that like point of order? I have literally...
No, it's like, no, I don't have anything. It's that kind of,
Boy, see, that's the thing is I don't know what these memes mean on their own, and then when you reference them, we're really doubling down on the Darmok stuff here. Like we're 2 degrees of Darmok past like where we should be at this point. Like, Good luck, Joe, understanding what people are saying in the chat is what I'm hearing. Like, that's not really my business. You know what? I've got these chains, though, that say humanity was my business. Understanding their memes and their nonsense was my business.
And that's how you clipped.
The Red Bull's starting to hit.
It was the chains that clipped.
Yeah. Elijah says everyone should be tipping 27. Oh, Chloe tipped 27 for each chapter of Dracula as well. For some reason, I was like, Elijah said I'm tipping $1 for every chapter, and I was like, I understand that. That's why it's $27. And then Chloe tipped $27. I'm like, what a weird coincidence.
You're like, oh, cool. Yeah, $27.
Oh, that's funny. Two people did the same amount, like, the same night. Like, what do you... Okay. Oh, we get a lot. Dave USPS says in the style of
Darmok and
Darmok,
at Nagri.
Joe Hills when the Red Bull hit. Oh. Okay. So yeah, we're just gonna play a little bit more Minecraft so I can have a few more sips of my drink, and then we'll jump right back into November 5th. Remember, the 5th of November. Now, that was already a holiday in England when Bram Stoker wrote this, right? Because the gunpowder, that was like the 17th century, right?
It was 1668, I think, or something like that.
And Stoker was writing this in 1895.
Yeah, because it was released in 1897.
Okay.
Yeah, took him a while. Because he researched in like every major library there was in Britain, basically, for a few years before he finished it. And one of the fun things about the libraries being so old here, and that they didn't get burnt down in the wars and things like that, like a lot of them are still absolutely fine, is that you can see when Bram Stoker took out like folklore about vampires and things like that, and all the kind of devilish kind of things that he used as reference, which is really
Oh, like they have his like his library
they have his name,
record
like, written in the ledger. Yeah.
Oh, that's wild.
Him taking out research books.
Yeah, I visited the United States National Archive in Washington, D.C., which is not as old. I get that. I'm not saying it's the same thing. But I visited the United States National Archive in Washington, D.C., and they had the draft versions of speeches by American politicians from 250 years ago or whatever, written just in handwriting on paper. And like when people talk about like how they don't teach kids cursive anymore because they don't need it, I gotta say it was a wild experience to just be able to read writing from somebody who lived hundreds of years ago, just to sit there and read their handwriting. And if you don't read cursive, you're not going to have that experience. And that's, I feel like we're losing something there. Now, that's not something you need day to day to be functional in society. And I'm not going to pretend it is. I love computers. I do a lot of stuff with computers. It makes a lot of handwriting obsolete. I get it. But like, it's one of those things where like, you know, I don't know if my daughter doesn't learn to read cursive, would she be able to look at that library register and understand it? We got a tip rolling in, though, from Thomas Bradley for 27. What a coincidence again. So let's see. The first 6 gets us... the first 16 gets us 1 expansion. Then 11 gets us 9 away from the next one. Who says, thanks for taking... Whoops, it's scrolling past me. Thanks for taking us on this journey, Joe and Badger. This has been appointment entertainment for me for half a year, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I will forever hear Van Helsing's voice as a bodybuilder now. Well, thank you so much, Thomas Bradley, for that. Here we go. Expand Joe. Why is it? Wait, hold on. The camera's weird. Do. Lowering the Joe Pasty now to 80%. So thank you very much, Thomas Bradley. And let me make sure we aren't missing any tips. In PayPal, nope, we're good. Manatee Cag says, I know some cursive, like hell. I think that's cursing, Manatee. Darby Bristy says cursive is hell. So you two are on the same page, equally legible. Okay, so yeah, I think we're gonna hop back in. I think it's
Good
time.
luck.
I think the sun's about to set too.
We're all thinking of you. We wish you luck.
Toxic says, I think cursive should be taught in history class, not English. That's a great point, Toxic, because like to actually get a college degree in history, you learn about research methodology and stuff like that. Like how to conduct interviews, how to contact like churches to ask for access to their archives, stuff like that. And so learning cursive in order to read the things you find in those archives would actually be a good fit for that. That's a really interesting point, Toxic. I don't think a lot of history teachers are going to want to add that to what they teach, though. But, like, it's not like we have a bunch of handwriting teachers we can retrain, because I think a lot of them aged out during the pandemic. They were like, you know what, I'm just going to retire because I don't want to do Zoom. So,
Yeah, I had so much trouble. Like, I have dyspraxia, but it wasn't diagnosed until I was an adult. And I'm also left-handed, and I was the last to write in my class, but I was the first to read. Like, I was fluent and reading like 5 years above us, but I was the last to read. And if I'd known that cursive wouldn't actually be that useful now, I would have learned just how to write in block. It would have been absolutely fine. That would have been easier for me.
absolutely.
But hey, but now I have beautiful handwriting, so
Yeah.
But it's all in cursive, so no one can read it.
I can read it. Oh, we can leave each other secret messages on the fridge when you get here. Corinne won't be able to read them.
Get the calligraphy pen out.
Oh boy, they had cursive L's on the menu on the wall at the barbecue restaurant. And Corinne's like, why do the L's look like Z's? And I'm like, well, in cursive, they like to make it look fancy with a loop. But yeah, I really thought that I was waiting for sunset so I could read this Van Helsing part, but apparently the sun is higher in the sky than I thought.
Ah, yes. Yep. I always find that in Minecraft, it feels darker at midday for some reason. It's like, oh, it must be coming to nighttime. And then you look up and it's like the sun is right above you.
Well, I think
But it
part
feels
of the problem was that I was like underground in an area that didn't have direct sunlight, but like
Yep.
I could tell. Okay, yeah, see, the sun is setting eventually.
Yep. It's like, yeah, there it is.
Oof, there it is. Oof, there it is. I could just cut a hole in the wall, like just a vertical slice, so I can see where the sun is. Hey, we got another tip. Oh, sorry.
Have to ask speed up for a clock or something.
Yeah, we got another tip rolling in real quick from Elizabeth for 5, who says, thanks for all the awesome streams and videos. Well, thank you, Elizabeth. That puts us now 4 away from the next face camera expansion milestone. Appreciate your support. Okay. Okay.
Are you ready, babe?
I think I'm ready. We've laid our head down and dream. It's time. You know, I think one thing that enriches me here is remember that thing I was telling you about excitedly before that, before we got started? So we were almost running late.
Yeah.
I think it might be a good time to tease that after we finish this.
Yeah.
I think that would be suitable. But not in the middle. We gotta finish the reading. I gotta get through all this Van Helsing bit, and all when we finish the whole book, we can tease that thing.
Just a little treat.
As a treat. Okay. 5th November morning.
Let me be accurate in everything, for though you and I have seen some strange things together, you may at the first think that I, Van Helsing, am mad. that the many horrors and the so long strain on my nerves has at the last turned my brain. All yesterday we travel, ever getting closer to the mountains, and moving into a more and more wild and desert land. There are great frowning precipices and much falling water, and Nietzsche seemed to have held some time her carnival. Madam Mina still sleep, and though I did have hunger and appeased it, I could not waken her, even for food. I began to fear that the fatal spell of the place was upon her, tainted as she is with that vampire baptism. Well, said I to myself, if it be that she sleep all day, it shall be also that I do not sleep at night. As we travel on the rough road, for a road of an ancient and imperfect kind there was, I held down my head and slept. Again I waked with a sense of guilt and of time past, and found Madam Mina still sleeping, and the sun low down. But all was indeed changed. The frowning mountain seemed farther away, and we were near the top of a steep rising hill, on summit of which was such a castle as Jonathan tell of in his diary. At once I exulted and feared, for now, for good or ill, the end was near. I woke on summit of which was such as castle as Jonathan tell of in his diary. At once, wait,
Hold on. No, I just read that.
I woke Madam Mina
Sorry.
tried.
Yeah, I got distracted
Too
by
quick.
the thing in the Twitch chat. Okay. Sorry. I'm gonna have another sip of my orange juice since I'm messing up anyway, and make sure that we haven't missed any tips because I messed up anyway.
Big sip.
Okay. I woke Madam Mina and again tried to hypnotize her, but alas, unavailing till too late. Then, ere the great dark came upon us, for even after sundown the heavens reflected the gone sun on the snow, and all was for a time in great twilight. I took out the horses and fed them in what shelter I could. Then I make a fire, and near it Madam Mina, now awake and more charming than ever, sits comfortably amid her rugs. I got ready food, but she would not eat, simply saying that she not hunger. I did not press her, knowing her unavailingness, but I myself eat, for I must needs now be strong for all. Then, with the fear on me
of what might be. I drew a ring, so big for her comfort, round where Madam Mina sat, and over the ring I passed some of the wafer, and I broke it so fine that all was well guarded. She sat still all the time, so still as one dead, and she grew whiter and ever whiter, till the snow was not more pale. And no word she said, but when I drew near, she clung to me, and I could know that the poor soul shook her from head to feet with a tremor that was a pain to feel. I said to her presently, when she had grown more quiet, "Will you not come over to the fire?" For I wished to make a test of what she could. She rose, obedient, but when she had made a step, she stopped and stood as one stricken. "Why not go on?" I asked. She shook her head, and coming back, sat down in her place. Then, looking at me with open eyes, as of one waked from sleep, she said simply,
I cannot.
and remained silent. I rejoiced, for I knew that what she could not, none of those that we dreaded could, though there might be danger to her body, yet her soul was safe. Presently the horses began to scream and tore at their tethers, till I came to them and quieted them. When they did feel my hands on them, they whinnied low, as in joy, and licked at my hands, and were quiet for a time. Many times through the night did I come to them, till it arrived to the cold hour, when all nature is at lowest, and every time my coming was with quiet of them. In the cold hour the fire began to die, and I was about stepping forth to replenish it, for now the snow came in flying sweeps, and with it a chill mist. Even in the dark there was a light of some kind, as there ever is over snow, and it seemed as though the snow flurries and the wreaths of mist took shape as of women with trailing garments. All was in dead, grim silence, only that the horses whinnied and cowered, as if in terror of the worst. I began to fear horrible fears, but then came to me the sense of safety in that ring wherein I stood. I began, too, to think that my imaginings were of the night and the gloom, and the unrest that I have gone through, and all the terrible anxiety. It was as though my memories of all Jonathan's horrid experiences were befooling me, for the snowflakes and the mist began to wheel and circle round, till I could get as though a shadowy glimpse of those women that would have kissed him. And then the horses cowered lower and lower, and moaned in terror, as men do in pain. Even the madness of fright was not to them so that they could break away. I feared for my dear Madamina when the weird figures drew near and circled round. I looked at her, but she sat calm and smiled at me when I would have stepped to the fire to replenish it. She caught me and held me back and whispered, like a voice that one hears in a dream, so low it was.
No, no, do not go without. Here, you are safe.
I turned to her, and looking in her eyes, I said, "But you! It is for you that I fear." Whereat she laughed.
Fear for me? Why fear for me? None safer in all the world from them than I am.
And as I wondered at the meaning of her words, a puff of wind made the flame leap up, and I see the red scar on her forehead. Then, alas, I knew. Did I not, I would soon have learned, for the wheeling figures of mist and snow came closer, but keeping ever without the holy circle. Then they began to materialize, till, if God have not taken away my reason, for I saw it through my eyes, there were before me, in actual flesh, the same 3 women that Jonathan saw in the room when they would have kissed his throat. I knew the swaying round forms, the bright, hard eyes, the white teeth, the ruddy color, the voluptuous lips. They smiled ever at poor dear Madamina, and as their laugh came through the silence of the night, they twined their arms and pointed to her, and said in those so sweet, tingling tones that Jonathan said were of the intolerable sweetness of water glasses,
Come, sister, come to us. Come.
In fear I turned to my dear Madamina, and my heart with gladness leapt like flame, for oh, the terror in her sweet eyes, the repulsion, the horror, told a story to my heart that was full of hope. God be thanked! She was not yet of them. I seized some of the firewood which was by me, and, holding out some of the wafer, advanced on them toward the fire. They drew back before me and laughed their low, horrid laugh. I fed the fire and feared them not, for I knew that we were safe within our protections. They could not approach me whilst so armed, nor Madamina while she remained within the ring, which she could not leave no more than they could enter. The horses had ceased to moan, and lay still on the ground. The snow fell on them softly, and they grew whiter. I knew that there was for these poor beasts no more of terror. And so we remained till the red of the dawn began to fall through the snow gloom. I was desolate and afraid and full of woe and terror. But when that beautiful sun began to climb the horizon, life was to me again. At the first coming of the dawn, the horrid figures melted in the whirling mist and snow. The wreaths of transparent gloom moved away toward the castle and were lost. Instinctively, with the dawn coming, I turned to Madame Mina, intending to hypnotize her, but she lay in a deep and sudden sleep, from which I could not wake her. I tried to hypnotize her through sleep, but she made no response, none at all, and the dawn broke. I fear yet to stir. I have made my fire, and have seen the horses. They are all dead. Today I have much to do here, and I keep waiting till the sun is up high, for there may be places where I must go, where the sunlight, though snow and mist obscure it, will be to me a safety. I will strengthen me with breakfast, and then I will to my terrible work. Madame Mina still sleeps, and God be thanked, she is calm in her sleep.
And that concludes Van Helsing's memorandum for November 5th.
Oh, horses.
Yeah.
Aw.
I didn't realize that the horses died. I skimmed this to kind of get a sense of like how much each of us was going to be talking.
I know.
But I didn't catch that the horses died because it was a quick skim. Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, so did the Vampire Brides.
Oh boy. Yep, you got me there. Oh boy. Okay, so let's see if we can clear out any of this additional nonsense in our inventory. Oh boy. Quick reminder, we are $4 $4 only away from our next face camera expansion. 24 from the one after that. We are currently at 80% show opacity. Chloe the Great and Powerful says, did the brides die or run back to the castle? No, they left before the sun rose. But like, yeah, so it's like Van Helsing and Mina are basically within view of the castle now. They're
Yeah, they're like at the foot of the gates. at the
yeah,
moment.
yeah, they're basically, we're here. I think that's one of the things in We're There, maybe, in Red and Ted's Roadshow. If you guys are enjoying Badger and I performing Dracula, you'll love it when we do Red and Ted's Roadshow. Friday! Where's my paycheck?
It's quitting time. It's genuinely one of my favorite pinball machines.
It's such a goofy machine. And the ventriloquist dummies are actually way creepier in real life than they are on the virtual version of the machine.
Oh yeah, they're great. I love them.
Oh boy.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I need a second. Because, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I have finished my Red Bull. I don't need more Red Bull. Because I feel like one Red Bull every 3 to 5 hours in non-extreme cases. Like if I'm driving like for 17 hours straight, I might have more frequent Red Bulls, but like I'm good on Red Bull for now, but I am going to have to like go get lemonade or something. So I got something with a little sugar to sip on. I'm thinking we should do a hydration break. How does that sound for you? Would you appreciate a hydration break, Badger?
Yeah, that'll be cool.
Okay, because even if you were like, no, I don't need one, I was going to be like, too bad. I need one. I'm coming. Here's some music. You're muted. Bye. No, I'm not that mean. Yeah, Tina Fey did voices for pinball machines because she was in Chicago, and Chicago's where pinball machines are made.
Yeah.
Kindle says 1 Red Bull every 3 to 5 days is a lot. 24 times, that is too much. Yeah, that's true. Okay. So, let me see on our thank you list who we should thank. We already played What's Left of Sam McGee, so we're not going to do that one. Mantua Maker requested lines. That's always a favorite. That's about 4 minutes long. So I guess, Badger, I'm going to mute and deafen in Discord and play lines, and I'll unmute and deafen in about 4 minutes. Sound good?
Perfect.
Alrighty?
Excellent.
Talk to you soon. And everybody else, let me go ahead, and I'm going to start this song. I don't have the... Or do I have the iPad set up? I don't have the iPad set up. I thought I did, but honestly, it's too late. I need to go get a drink before my throat dies. So we're just going to go ahead and play lines. Be right back.
Power line to convey a certain brilliance, a telephone line to carry a voice, a metro line to bring us all downtown. Lines of connection, communication, not the borders of boundaries that slice and dice a nation. Divided by the chalk lines of disreputable history, past failures are laid out as we shrug with absent mystery. Those bodies left behind us while we amble on ahead, fearful of the wrong things from newspapers unread. Before I tell you what to do, or you try to tell me, let's all see what's been done and where we could have been. By knowing what's before us, the path might clear ahead, and focus on new obstacles uncharted by the dead. Power line from a gurgling turbine, a telephone line from a quiet room, a metro line from across the city. Maybe we'll all raise our glasses soon. They say across the fence line the grass is always butcherous, but we're not corralling cattle, fearing wranglers about the murders. When we look out past dividers, we're unsurprised to see more folks erecting fences, becoming detainees. Before I worry about you or you worry about me, let's all dwell on ourselves. We're the private enemy, becoming who we're meant to, virtuous and creative. We won't dread the different, the strange or unrelated. A power line to
Welcome back, everyone. Okay, I didn't put the hydration break sign up. I put the setting up stream sign. Hi, same thing. Says Chloe the Great and Powerful. Setting up hydration break. Whatever. Like, yeah. I'm sorry. I was like, I've only got 4 minutes. I'm gonna click the thing and I'm gonna run to the kitchen and back. So, yay.
Yeah, you did it.
I did it. Okay, so I turned the volume down on everything because the music was super loud compared to you. So I got to turn
Okay.
you back up now. Sorry. Okay.
Fair enough.
Okay.
This is how I'm going to speak.
Yeah.
La 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 la.
La 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 la. Okay. I am so glad that you are here joining me, Badger, for this Dracula finale. Thank you also to everybody. I see Eklog's dropping in. Oh, who's actually saying, I'm not actually here. I'm just in the chat. I'm missing the finale to go see Dry Cleaning. The band, not the service. Okay. Well, never mind. Thanks to everybody but Eklog's for being here. That's what I get. That's what I get for just being excited to see. Oh, I didn't see Eklog's earlier. Let's read Eklog's in particular. No.
I know, like, I would actually quite like to see how they dry clean stuff. So, that would be a thing. I would be like, oh yeah, I'm going to the dry cleaners to have a tour. There you go.
Yeah, a lot of those chemicals aren't really safe.
Yeah, they're not good for you.
No. And that's why there was like this rash of like eco dry cleaners opening, but like the chemicals weren't actually safer. They were just
No, they weren't. They were somehow worse
it's
in a
like,
lot
oh
of the
boy. Okay. So I think we're ready to move on. Moving on is a chance you take any time you read Dracula. Harker's Journal, 4th November evening. Oh man, what if the next time we do this, I do all the Jonathan Harker bits as Billy Joel?
Okay.
Yeah, that's actually a terrible.
Singing all the way.
That's a terrible.
His singing voice, not his speaking voice.
Porque no los dos, mi amore. It's just like, what's the worst possible idea, and how can I double down on it? Oh boy.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Okay, so let's go ahead and put these extra tools we don't need at the moment up as well. Whoops. Okay, I did that wrong somehow. Okay. Somebody says, do it as Elton John. I don't know how Elton John actually sounds. Like, I've never seen, like, an interview or something with him.
Oh, he's awesome. Good old Reginald.
Yeah, the thing is, like, he doesn't, like... I think he might be more, like, available to your press in England than he is here.
I think so. No,
You know,
yeah,
like,
he's not particularly, like, well-spoken. He's just kind of Londonish accent, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Really. It's just a normal... Sounds just like an average Southern Englishman.
Mm. Okay. So, Jonathan Harker's Journal, 4th November, evening. The accident to the launch has been a terrible thing for us. Only for it, we should have overtaken the boat long ago, and by now, my dear Mina would have been free. I fear to think of her, off on the wolds near that horrid place. We may have got horses, and we follow on track. I note this whilst Godalming is getting ready. We have our arms. The Sesgani must look out if they mean to fight. Oh, if only Morris and Seward were with us. We must only hope. If I write no more, goodbye, Mina. God bless and keep you. That concludes Jonathan Harker's journal, I think for the whole book. Dr. Seward's Diary, 5th November is where we're going to be starting next. If you're reading along at home, Dr. Seward's Diary, 5th November, chapter 27. With the dawn, we saw the body of Sesgani before us, dashing away from the river with their little wagon. They surrounded it in a cluster and hurried along as though beset. The snow is falling lightly, and there is a strange excitement in the air. It may be our own excited feelings, but the depression is strange. Far off, I hear the howling of wolves. The snow brings them down from the mountains, and there are dangers to all of us, and from all sides. The horses are nearly ready, and we are soon off. We ride to death of someone. God alone knows who, or where, or what, or when, or how it may be. And then that concludes Dr. Seward's writing for the entire book. Then we have Dr. Van Helsing's memorandum. If somebody wants to tip so I can get a breather, I'd be happy to read your tip description.
Help.
Just give me a minute. It's fun. It's fine. I spent the day psychologically preparing for this. Kind of. I actually spent the day. So, the Tennessee state level women's pinball tournament. My daughter didn't qualify for it this year because she only participated in like 4 or 5 events last year. And like doing the math, if she had participated in her full 20, she would have qualified for the women's state tournament. But like she was too young to go to a lot of them because they were like late at night and stuff. So in the future, she might qualify for this. But anyway, the women's Tennessee state pinball tournament is at one of my favorite arcades tomorrow. And so I said, hey, since we can't go there and play tomorrow, why don't we go there today? The men's tournament is today, so all the guys are going to be off at that, and our favorite local arcade will be basically empty, and we can just go play. And we get there, and we walk in, and a bunch of people I know are all like, Joe! And I'm like, what's going on? And they're like, it's the men's state pinball tournament! And I'm like, oh no, they're in the same place!
Womp, womp,
Womp, womp, womp. So my daughter and I got to hang out at the men's state pinball tournament today. They had a few machines that weren't part of the tournament we got to play and practice on. But, womp, womp. So my plan of avoiding the tournament by going the day before just ran us into a different state tournament. Eklog says, genuine question, why do they separate men and women? So they didn't used to, and historically there weren't a lot of women that would qualify at the state level, and it was kind of, the sport was kind of viewed, or the game was kind of viewed as like a men's thing, and so women started organizing their own state tournaments as a way to get more women involved in pinball. And
yeah,
it's,
but before that time, like women would play with the men. It wasn't like a completely separated thing.
yeah, so the thing is though too, also like the men's tournament is kind of it's not called the men's tournament really technically. It's
it's just the tournament.
it's the state tournament. But for the most part it kind of shakes out that way, if that makes sense. So there might have been, like, in the state of Tennessee, 1 or 2 women who qualified for the main state tournament, but then there's another 24 women who compete in the women's state tournament out of, like, 400 people statewide who are eligible at all, right? So it's more to create an opportunity for women than to take an opportunity from women. And because, like, realistically... Eklog says, so the women's tournament is to drive engagement. Yeah, basically. So, like, my kid wouldn't have a chance to play in the state-level pinball tournament at her skill level, but she would have a chance to play in the state-level women's if she participated in enough events to qualify. Like, based on her current skill level, and this is not like to say like, oh, this is an easy tournament to get into. Just my kid is stupid good at pinball. It's frustrating when we play together sometimes.
There are some amazing female players out there as well. It's
Yeah.
like, wow.
Unlimited creativity.
Get your ass whooped all the time by them.
Yeah. Unlimited creativity, upping my tip to total 27 by tipping 7 now, says, let me list 27 things I learned about myself over the last 27 weeks that you can read in a normal and not a strongman voice. Thank you, Unlimited Creativity. That gets us 3 past our next face camera expansion milestone. Here we go. It's time to expand Joe. Do. Lowering the Joe pasty now to 70%. But that's a good point, though, Eklogs. I shouldn't call it the men's tournament, because it's not it's just the main tournament. Clam Meditation says, this look into the world of pinball is fascinating. Yeah, I'm really excited by the folks that we raid sometimes on Thursday's Hot Nudge. They helped organize the women's league up in Chicago, Bells and Chimes. There is a kind of women's tournament series that somebody we've met through pinball is organizing in Nashville that I'm excited to start taking my daughter to when she's older. Like, it's a really good opportunity for folks to get into the hobby, and they are now like it's the sort of thing like at the huge national level events, there didn't used to be anywhere near as many women as there are now since these women's tournaments started. So not only is it intending to get women into pinball, it's succeeding. And maybe
it's working really, really well.
Yeah, and maybe one day these won't be necessary at all. But for right now, it's a great step. And I'm very happy to see it, and I'm happy to encourage it so that my daughter can have the opportunity.
I was really pleasantly surprised when we went to the Chicago Pinball Expo. I was pleasantly surprised how many women were there. It was really, really cool, because you're so used to like these kind of things being men only, and only just like maybe their partners coming in on it but not playing. And it was awesome though. Like it was, I wouldn't say it was 50-50, but it's a good number. Like I'm so used to being in a male kind of,
compared to like most sci-fi conventions or gaming conventions. Yeah,
it was a decent split.
NJ Coffee Junkie tips 5, who says, why hello, take a breath and have this for a good cup of coffee or a snack tomorrow. Thank you, NJ. That puts us 12 away from the next face camera expansion milestone. Clam Meditation says, pinball has never been something I'm interested in, but I love hearing about other people's hobbies. I love hearing about other people's jobs and hobbies too. That's really awkward for me socially, because I'll ask people, oh, what do you do for a living? And I'll be really excited to hear about it. And then they'll be like, what do you do? And I'm like, oh no, now it looks like I just wanted to brag about being on YouTube. I don't want to talk about what I do. Womp womp. Awkward. It's like, I make websites, I do some videos on the internet. Like, okay. So, I think there's no way about it, Badger. I think we got to continue. I know it's late there for you, and so I really shouldn't stall on this.
Yeah, we just gotta do it.
Just gotta do it. Now, this bit's not as long, and then we're gonna go on to a lot of Mina stuff. The Mina stuff does have quotes from other people, though, so I'll jump in there as needed. So,
we're all counting on you, Joe.
Yeah. Kindle says, do what Doc does and say, I work in online marketing. Yeah, that's what I should do. I'm an amateur ice hockey coach.
Ice hockey.
Ice hockey! You strike the puck with the stick. It is curved, and you wear special shoes on the ice. Okay?
What is okay? What is okay? Ice. Ice okay.
Ice okay. Ice okay. Okay. Yeah. So here we go. Dr. Van Helsing's memorandum. 5th November, afternoon.
I am at least sane. Thank God for that mercy. At all events, though the proving it has been dreadful. when I left Madam Mina sleeping within the holy circle. I took my way to the castle. The blacksmith hammer, which I took in the carriage from the Rusty, was useful, though the doors were all open. I broke them off the rusty hinges, lest some ill intent or ill chance should close them, so that being entered I might not get out. Jonathan's bitter experience served me well here. By memory of his diary, I found my way to the old chapel, for I knew that here my work lay. The air was oppressive. It seemed as if there was some sulphurous fume, which at times made me dizzy. Either there was a roaring in my ears, or I heard afar off the howl of wolves. Then I bethought of my dear Madam Mina, and I was in terrible plight. The dilemma had me between his horns. Her I had not dared to take into this place, but left safe from the vampire in that holy circle. And yet, even there, would be the wolf. I resolve me that my work lay here, and that as to the wolves we must submit, if it were God's will. At any rate, it was only death and freedom beyond. So did I choose for her. Had it been for myself, the choice had been easy. The maw of the wolf were better to rest in than the grave of the vampire. So I make my choice to go on with my work. I knew that there were at least 3 graves to be found. Graves that are in habit. So I search and search, and I find one of them. She lay in her vampire sleep, so full of life and voluptuous beauty that I shudder as though I have come to do murder. Ah, I doubt not that in old time, when such things were, many a man who set forth to do a task such as mine found at the last his heart fail him, and then his nerve. So he delay and delay and delay, till the mere beauty and the fascination of the wanton undead have hypnotized him, and he remain on and on till sunset come and the vampire sleep be over. Then the beautiful eyes of the fair woman open and look love, and the voluptuous mouth present to kiss, and man is weak, and there remain one more victim in the vampire fold, one more to swell the grim and grisly ranks of the undead. There is some fascination, surely, when I am moved by the mere presence of such a one, even laying as she lay in a tomb, fretted with age and heavy with the dust of centuries, though there be that horrid odour such as the layers of the Count have had. Yes, I was moved, I, Van Helsing, with all my purpose and with my motive for hate. I was moved to a yearning for delay, which seemed to paralyze my faculties and to clog my very soul. It must have been that the need of natural sleep and the strange oppression of the air were beginning to overcome me. Certain it was that I was lapsing into sleep. The open-eyed sleep of one who yields to such sweet fascination, when there came through the snow-stilled air a long, low wail, so full of woe and pity that it woke me like the sound of a clarion, for it was the voice of my dear Madam Mina that I heard. Then I braced myself again to my horrid task, and found, by wrenching away tomb tops, one other of these sisters, the other dark one. I dared not to pause to look on her as I had on her sister, lest once more I should begin to enthrall. But I go on searching until presently I find in a high great tomb, as if made to one much beloved, that the other fair sister, which, like Jonathan, I had seen to gather herself out of the atoms of the mist. She was so fair to look on, so radiantly beautiful, so exquisitely voluptuous, that the very instinct of man in me, which calls some of my sex to love and to protect one of hers, made my head whirl with new emotion. But God be thanked, that soul wail of my dear Madam Mina had not died out of my ears, and before the spell could be wrought within me, I had nerved myself to my wild work. By this time I had searched all the tombs in the chapel, so far as I could tell, and as there had been only 3 of these undead phantoms around us in the night, I took it that there were no more of active undead existent. There was one great tomb, more lordly than all the rest. Huge it was, and nobly proportioned. On it was but one word:
Dracula!
This then was the undead home of the king vampire, to whom so many more were due. Its emptiness spoke eloquent to make certain that I knew what, before I began to restore these women to their dead selves through my awful work, I laid in Dracula's tomb some of the wafer, and so banished him from it undead forever. Then began my terrible task, and I dreaded it. Had it been but one, It had been easy, comparative, but 3 to begin twice more after I had been through a deed of horror. For if it was terrible with this sweet Miss Lucy, what would it not be with these strange ones who had survived through the centuries and who had been strengthened by the passing of the years, who would, if they could, have fought for their lives? Oh, my friend John, it was butcher work. Had I not been nerved by thoughts of other dead, and of the living, over whom hung such a pall of fear, I could not have gone on. I tremble and tremble, even yet, though till all was over, God be thanked, my nerve did stand. Had I not seen the repose in the first face, and the gladness that stole over it, just ere the final dissolution came, as realization that the soul had been won, I could not have gone further with my butchery. I could not have endured the horrid screeching. As the stake drove home, the plunging of writhing form, of lips and bloody foam, I should have fled in terror and left my work undone. But it is over, and the poor souls, I can pity them now, and weep, and I think of them placid each in her full sleep of death for a short moment ere fading, for friend John hardly had my knife severed the head of each before the whole body began to melt away and crumble into its native dust, as though the death should have come centuries agone, had at last assert himself and say at once and loud, I am here. Before I left the castle, I so fixed its entrances that never more can the Count enter there undead. When I stepped into the circle where Madam Mina slept, she woke from her sleep, and, seeing me, cried out in pain that I had endured so much.
Come away from this awful place. Let us go to meet my husband, who I know is coming towards us.
She was looking thin and pale and weak, but her eyes were pure and glowed with a fervor. I was glad to see her paleness and her illness, for my mind was full of the fresh horror of that ruddy vampire sleep. And so, with trust and hope, and yet full of fear, we go eastward to meet our friends, and him whom Madam Mina tells me that she know are coming to meet us.
And that concludes Van Helsing's writings for the entire novel Dracula. Gusty Gale says, wait, did Van Helsing finally kill Drac? He found Dracula's tomb, but Dracula's still on his way back with the Sezgani.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, he decapitated all of the brides.
Yep.
Yeah, fun times.
It's effective. Boogie, woogie, woogie, woogie. So let's go ahead and offload some of these materials I've got here. I've picked up a lot of cobble. Whole lot of cobble going on. Oh boy. Wait, Van Helsing kills people, says Kindleless? Only married people. So Badger, are you ready to jump into the Mina or?
I am. Yeah.
Hufflepuff says, "Does your daughter appreciate your reading voices?" These are not the reading voices I use when I read to my daughter.
No.
Like, and also keep in mind, like when I read to my daughter, I'm reading her like, what's her name? The
Oh yeah, the
the murder novels.
yeah.
What it's something Stevens.
Yeah, Robin Stevens.
Yeah, I'm reading her like Robin Stevens's like boarding school murder mystery solving novels with like a bunch of British children. Like, oi, what do you think the headmistress so and so is doing? But like, except they're not like oi because they're like ladies.
They're very well to do.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, it's like my dad's a lord. Well, it's really funny too because one of the point of view characters of that, Hazel, her dad is from Hong Kong, and he sends her to boarding school in England as like kind of a way to show off. And one of the things that Hazel doesn't realize is like that her dad, who like runs a bank or something stupid, is like way wealthier than all of her friends at boarding school.
Yeah.
Parents, because like they're all like super old money or whatever, where they have like high positions,
They have land.
they
but
have
they don't
land and stuff. But like when her friend, who's like the Sherlock of the series, comes to visit her in Hong Kong in one of the books, her friend is just like, I forget what the line is, but it's something like, "Hazel, while I feel you attempted to inform me you have money, I feel that you did not attempt to inform me emphatically enough." Because just like the estate that she lives on in Hong Kong is like stupid compared to the friend. Yeah, compared to the estate that her friend, who's like an actual like my dad's a lord, lives on. But it's one of those new money versus old money things though too.
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, it's those are really good books. The Robin Stevens board, I forget what the name of the series is. It's but they're boarding school murder mysteries, and so they're not very violent, but the premise is still in every book that somebody got murdered and the girls have to figure it out. But like that's the sort of thing I would be reading to her.
Got a high death count for a boarding school.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, though, like, they realized that they couldn't have every murder happen at the boarding school because, you know, that's not... Like, at a certain point, the school gets shut down or all the rich people pull their kids out, right? But, like...
Yeah, there's an English drama, like crime drama in the UK called Midsummer Murders. And because there are so many murders every single week and the villages are so small, the death rate is like 1 in like 100.
Yeah. And it's just like, how do people still live? How does the local bakery have enough customers? Like everybody's been murdered. Like this is not a functional economy at a certain point. But yeah, so the thing is like one of the books, for example, is about them visiting the older brother at Oxford, and there's a murder at Oxford. One of them is about them going on a train trip, and there's a murder on the train. And that one's kind of an homage to Murder on the Orient Express, because it actually takes place on the Orient Express. And the kids are super excited because they're like, "Oh, it's the Orient Express, just like in that famous novel." And the dad's like, "Guys, nobody's gonna get murdered on the Orient Express. That's just a novel." And then someone gets murdered, and the dad's just like, "I know I said no one's gonna get murdered, and now I'm about to say no one's about to investigate that murder, and both are gonna be equally untrue, aren't they?" And the girl's like, "No, we're totally not going to investigate this murder on the Orient Express." And the dad's like, "Good, you better not, because we're on the Orient Express and somebody just got murdered, and that's a bad time to be poking around if you're a child." They're really fun books.
Yeah, a Mad Hatter 13 says, unlike the murder capital of the USA, Cabot Cove, Maine. Yeah, but they used to go down to like Boston and New York and stuff like all the time for that. Because Cabot Cove was like where she lived, but like she was always going on like book tours and stuff like that.
Oh, JKA says, JKA says that the name of the series is Murder Most Unladylike. Yeah, I think you're right. I think that is the name of it. That might be the name of the first book, but that's, yeah.
Yep. When Angela Lansbury left Cabot Cove, the murders stopped, says Kindless.
Yeah. So, have you ever seen the ABC, although it was probably on like Sky or something over there, the murder mystery show Castle with Nathan
Oh, yeah.
Fillion? Yeah. So, when I told my friend Waff that Nathan Fillion had a new show where he was a detective that I really wanted to watch. Like we watched the first episode together, like live on television, and we almost never watched anything live on television. But we were both huge fans of Firefly, and we were like, "Oh, let's see what Nathan Fillion's doing now." Apparently, when I was describing this, I was like eating or doing something else and distracted, and so I guess I mumbled some of the description of the show, and he thought that I said it was a show about Nathan Fillion as a murder novelist helping the police department to solve murders that he committed. And so he's watching the first episode and he's like, I just don't see how Castle could have been at the scene of the murder to kill the person. But I guess this is kind of like a reverse Columbo where we're like, we know Castle did it every episode. We're trying to figure out how. That was not what the,
Damn it, that would have been such a good
that's
idea.
not what the show is about at all. And I'm like, oh man, that would have been so much better. It would have been a very different show as a Mad Hatter.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's like I'm gonna be honest. The only reason we saw Frozen 2 was that one of my coworkers, who was a writer at this ad agency, and who had very strong opinions about writing. Like, if she thought something was poorly written, she was gonna tell you. She saw Frozen 2 opening weekend and came back, and she was just like, it was way better than I expected. You know, I don't want to spoil anything. And I'm like, you know, I'm probably not going to see it, whatever. And she said something that I thought was her saying, I didn't expect them to make Olaf the villain, but it worked. And so so I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take my daughter to that. We're going to go see Frozen 2. That's really interesting. Olaf is this created construct trying to find meaning, and maybe he inadvertently causes mayhem or problems. Like this is, and you know, not necessarily like Olaf is evil, but Olaf is the villain. He's the antagonist. And I'm like, so like all this stuff is happening in the movie, and I'm watching it, and I'm just like, oh man, because Olaf is like, what is it to be alive? What is it to do this? Where are the limits of these things? And he's like, and I'm watching it, and I'm like, oh, this is so cool. I didn't think they would. This is really interesting. And we get to the end, and Olaf wasn't the villain. And I was super disappointed because it was set up that way. Like, it works.
Yep.
But, like, I would not have seen that movie otherwise, so I'm kind of glad I saw it. But, like, I said to my coworker, I'm like, were you messing with me or did I mishear you? And she's like, what do you mean? And I was like, did you say that Olaf was the villain in Frozen 2? And she's like, oh my god, no, but that totally works the way they set it up earlier in the movie. And I'm like, I thought you told me that in the whole beginning of the movie. I was watching it, like, on the edge of my seat, like, oh, how are they going to pull this off? So, that was just... Womp womp. I mean, he's no Dracula.
Dracula.
I had to do it. A lot of people commented. I wasn't paying attention, and now I've peed myself.
Don't cross the streams.
Oh, boy. So, are you ready to bring us in for the Madam Mina bit here?
I am indeed.
Okay, I'm going to try and get somewhere so that I can read along, because I know I'm going to have some lines mixed in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yes, you are.
I think I am all set as well.
Okay. Mina Harker's journal. 6th of November. It was late in the afternoon when the professor and I took our way towards the east, whence I knew Jonathan was coming. We did not go fast though the way... Oh, my God. Sorry, my brain...
It's
is
okay.
not
I know it's like 3 a.m. there. I appreciate you showing up. It's 3:30 a.m.
4 a.m.
It's 4 a.m. there. I appreciate you being here. Don't worry.
We did not go fast, though the way was steeply downhill, for we had to take heavy rugs and wraps with us. We dared not face the possibility of being left without warmth in the cold and the snow. We had to take some of our provisions too, for we were in perfect desolation, and, so far as we could see through the snowfall, there was not even the sign of habitation. When we had gone about a mile, I was tired with the heavy walking and sat down to rest. Then we looked back and saw where the clear line of Dracula's castle cut the sky, for we were so deep under the hill whereon it sat that the angle of perspective of the Carpathian Mountains was far below it. We saw it in all its grandeur, perched 1,000 feet on the summit of a sheer precipice, and with seemingly a great gap between it and the steep of the adjacent mountain on any side. There was something wild and uncanny about the place. We could hear the distant howling of wolves. They were far off, but the sound, even though coming muffled through the deadening snowfall, was full of terror. I knew from the way Dr. Van Helsing was searching about that he was trying to seek some strategic point, where we'd be less exposed in case of attack. The rough roadway still led downwards. We could trace it through the drifted snow. In a little while, the professor signalled to me, so I got up and joined him. He had found a wonderful spot, a sort of natural hollow in a rock, with an entrance like a doorway in between two boulders. He took me by the hand and drew me in.
See! Here you will be in shelter, and if the wolves do come, I can meet them one by one.
He brought in our furs and made a snug nest for me and got out some provisions and forced them upon me, but I could not eat. Even to try was repulsive to me, and as much as I would like to please him, I could not bring myself to the attempt. He looked very sad, but did not reproach me. Taking his field glasses from the case, he stood on top of the rock and began to search the horizon. Suddenly he called out,
Look, Madam Mina! Look! Look!
I sprang up and stood beside him on the rock. He handed me his glasses and pointed. The snow was now falling more heavily, and swirled around fiercely, for a high wind was beginning to blow. However, there were times when there were pauses between the snow flurries, and I could see a long way around. From the height where we were, it was possible to see a great distance, and far off beyond the white waste of snow, I could see the river lying like a black ribbon in kinks and curls as it wound its way. Straight in front of us and not far off, in fact. So near, I wondered, we had not noticed before, came a group of mounted men hurrying along. In the midst of them were the cart, a long lighter wagon, which swept from side to side like a dog's tail wagging, with each stern inequality on the road. Outlined against the snow as they were, I could see from the men's clothes that they were peasants or Romanes of some kind. On the cart was a great square chest. My heart leapt as I saw it, for I felt that the end was coming. The evening was now drawing close, and well I knew that the sunset at the thing, which was till then imprisoned there, would take new freedom, and could in many forms elude all pursuit. In fear I turned to the professor. To my consternation, however, he was not there. An instant later, I saw him below me. Round the rock he had drawn a circle, as such we had found shelter in last night. When he had completed it, he stood beside me again, saying,
At least you shall be safe from him!
He took the glasses from me, and at the next lull of snow, he swept the whole place below us.
See! They come quickly. They are flogging the horses, such as we had found shelter in. Wait, sorry. And galloping as hard as they can.
He paused and went on in a hollow voice.
They are racing for the sunset. We may be too late. God's will be done.
Down came another blinding rush of driving snow, and the whole landscape was blotted out. It soon passed, however. and once more his glasses were fixed on the plain. Then came a sudden cry.
Look! 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 See, 2 horsemen, follow fast, coming up from the south. It must be Quincy and John. Take the glass, look, before the snow blots it all out.
I took it and looked. The 2 men might be Dr. Seward and Mr. Morris. I knew at all events that neither of them was Jonathan. At that same time I knew Jonathan was not far off. Looking around, I saw on the north side of the coming party 2 other men, riding at breakneck speed. One of them I knew was Jonathan, and the other I took, of course, to be Lord Godalming. They too were pursuing the party with the cart. When I told the professor, he shouted in glee like a schoolboy, and after looking intently till a snowfall made sight impossible, he laid his Winchester rifle ready for use against the boulder at the opening of our shelter.
They are all converging. When the time comes, we shall have the Sesgani on all sides.
I got out my revolver ready to hand, for whilst we were speaking, the howling of wolves came louder and closer. When the snowstorm abated a moment, we looked again. It was strange to see the snow falling in such heavy flakes close to us and beyond, the sun shining more and more brightly as it sank down towards the far mountain tops. Sweeping the glass all around us, I could see here and there dots moving singly in 2s and 3s and larger numbers. The wolves were gathering for their prey. Every instant seemed an age while we waited. The wind came now in fierce bursts, and the snow was driven with fury as it swept upon us in circling eddies. At times we could not see an arm's length before us, but at others, as the hollow-sounding wind swept by us, it seemed to clear the airspace around us so that we could see afar off. We had of late been so accustomed to watch for sunrise and sunset that we knew with fair accuracy when that would be, and we knew that before long the sun would set. It was hard to believe that by our watches it was less than an hour that we waited in that rocky shelter before the various bodies began to converge close upon us. The wind came now with fiercer and more bitter sweeps, more steadily from the north. It seemingly had driven the snow clouds from us, for with only occasional bursts the snow fell. We could distinguish clearly the individuals of each party, the pursued and the pursuers. Strangely, those pursued did not seem to realize, or at least to care, that they were pursued. They seemed, however, to hasten with redoubled speed as the sun dropped lower and lower on the mountain tops. Closer and closer they drew. The professor and I crouched down behind our rock and held our weapons ready. I could see that he was determined that they should not pass. One and all were quite unaware of our presence. All at once, 2 voices shouted out to halt.
Halt!
One was my Jonathan's, raised in a high key of passion. The other, Mr. Morris's strong, absolute tone of quiet command. The Romany may not have known the language, but there was no mistaking the tone, in whatever tongue the words were spoken. Instinctively they reined in, and at that instant Lord Godalming and Jonathan dashed up at one side, and Dr. Seward and Mr. Morris on the other. The leader of the Romanies, a splendid-looking fellow, who sat on his horse like a centaur, waved them back, and in a fierce voice gave to his companions some word to proceed. They lashed the horses, which sprang forward, but the 4 men raised their Winchester rifles, and in an unmistakable way commanded them to stop. At the same moment, Dr. Van Helsing and I rose behind the rock and pointed our weapons at them. Seeing that they were surrounded by men, tightened their reins and drew up. The leader turned to them and gave a word which every man of the Zagani party drew what weapon he carried, knife or pistol, and held himself in readiness to attack. Issue was joined in an instant. The leader, with a quick movement of his rein, threw his horse out in front, and pointing first to the sun, now close down on the hilltops, and then to the castle, said something I did not understand. For answer, all 4 men of our party threw themselves from their horses and dashed towards the cart. I should have felt terrible fear at seeing Jonathan in such danger, but that the ardour of battle must have been upon me as well as the rest of them. I felt no fear, but only a wild surging desire to do something. Seeing the quick movement of our parties, the leader of the Zagani gave a command. His men instantly formed around the cart in a sort of undisciplined endeavour, each one shouldering and pushing each other in eagerness to carry out the order. In the midst of this, I could see Jonathan on one side of the ring of the men, and Quincy on the other, were forcing a way back to the cart. It was evidence that they were bent on finishing their task before the sun should set. Nothing seemed to stop or even hinder them. Neither the levelled weapons nor the flashing of knives of the Zagani in front, nor the howling of the wolves behind, appeared to even attract their attention. Jonathan's impetuosity and the manifest singleness of his purpose seemed to overawe those in front of him. Instinctively they cowered aside and let him pass. In an instant he had jumped upon the cart, and with strength that seemed incredible, raised the great box and flung it over the wheel to the ground. In the meantime, Mr. Morris has had to use all force to pass through his side of the ring of Zagani. All the time I had been breathlessly watching Jonathan as I had, with the tail of my eye, seen him pressing desperately toward, and had seen the knives of the Romanes flash as he won a way through them, and they cut at him. He had parried with his great bowie knife, and at first I thought he too had come through in safety, but as he sprang beside Jonathan, who had now jumped from the cart, I could see that with his left hand he was clutching at his side, and that the blood was spurting through his fingers. He did not delay withstanding this, for as Jonathan with desperate energy attacked one end of the chest, attempting to prise off the lid with his great cookery knife, he attacked the other frantically with his bowie. Under the efforts of both men, the lid began to yield. The nails grew back with a quick screeching sound, and the top of the box was thrown back. By this time, the Zagani, seeing themselves covered by the Winchesters, and at the mercy of Lord Godalming and Dr. Seward, had given in and made no resistance. The sun was almost down on the mountain tops, and the shadows of the whole group fell long upon the snow. I saw the Count lying within the box upon the earth, some of which the rude falling from the cart had scattered over him. He was deathly pale, just like a waxen image. The red eyes glared with the horrible vindictive look which I knew too well. As I looked, the eyes saw the sinking sun, and the look of hate in them turned to triumph. But on the instant came the sweep and flash of Jonathan's great knife. I shrieked as I saw it shear towards the throat, whilst at the same moment Mr. Norris's bowie knife plunged into the heart. It was like a miracle, but before our very eyes, and almost in the drawing of a breath, the whole body crumbled into dust and passed from our sight. I shall be glad, as long as I live, that even that moment of final dissolution, that there were a face, a look of peace, such as I could never imagined may have rested there. The castle of Dracula now stood out against the red sky, and every stone of its broken battlements was articulated against the setting sun. The Zagani, taking us in some way the cause of the extraordinary disappearance of the dead man, turned without a word and rode away as if for their lives. Those who were unmounted jumped upon the lighter wagon and shouted to the horsemen to not desert them. The wolves, which had withdrawn to a safe distance, followed in their wake, leaving us alone. Mr. Norris, who had sunk to the ground, leaned on his elbow, holding his hand pressed to his side. The blood still gushed through his fingers. I flew to him, but the holy circle did not now keep me back. So did the two doctors. Jonathan knelt behind him, the wounded man laid his head on his shoulder. With a sigh he took with a feeble effort my hand in that of his own, which was unstained. He must have seen the anguish of my heart in my face, for he smiled at me and said,
I'm only too happy to have been of any service. Oh, God.
He cried suddenly, struggling up to a sitting posture and pointing to me.
It was worth this. To die. Look. Look.
The sun was right now down upon the mountain top, and the red gleams fell upon my face, so that it was bathed in rosy light. With one impulse, the men sank to their knees, and a deep and earnest
Amen!
broke from all as their eyes followed the pointing of his finger. The dying man spoke.
Now God be thanked that all has not been in vain. See, the snow is not more stainless than her forehead. The curse has passed away.
And to our bitter grief, with a smile and in silence, he died, a gallant gentleman. Note. This is yours now.
This is, yep, it's switching to me because it's Jonathan Harker. 7 years ago, we all went through the flames, and the happiness of some of us since then is, we think, well worth the pain we endured. It is an added joy to Mina and me that our boy's birthday is on the same day on which Quincy Morris died. His mother holds, and I know, the secret belief that some of our brave friend's spirit has passed on to him. His bundle of names links all our little band of men together, but we call him Quincy. In the summer of this year, we made a journey to Transylvania and went over the old ground, which was and is, to us, so full of vivid and terrible memories. It was almost impossible to believe that the things which we had seen with our own eyes and heard with our own ears were living truths. Every trace of all that had been blotted out. The castle stood as before, reared high above a waste of desolation. When we got home, we got to talking of the old time, which we could all look back on without despair, for Godalming and Seward are both happily married. I took the papers from the safe where they have been ever since our return so long ago. We were struck with the fact that in all the mass of material of which our record is composed, there is hardly one authentic document. Nothing but a mass of typewriting, except the latter notebooks of Mina and Seward and myself, and Van Helsing's memorandum. We could hardly ask anyone, even did we wish to accept these as proofs of so wild a story. Van Helsing summed it all up, as he said, with our boy on his knee,
We want no proofs. We ask none to believe us. This boy will someday know what a brave and gallant woman his mother is. Already he knows her sweetness and her loving care. Later on, he will understand how some men so loved her, that they did share and dare much for her sake.
Jonathan Harker. And that concludes Dracula. Badger, woo, thank you so much for joining me. This was a fantastic 27 weeks. I appreciate you being here for as many of them as you could. I appreciate
chat, Quincy.
Yeah, F's in chat for Quincy indeed. Cub Raiders, you came in. We're literally reading the final part of the last chapter of Dracula. We've been reading Dracula for 27 weeks. You're here. Welcome. We just wrapped up reading Dracula.
Timing,
I was just saying to our Cub fan raiders that we appreciate the raid from our friend Cub. We also appreciate the raid from our friend M. However, yeah, you came in reading the end of the last chapter of Dracula, so we couldn't really break the mood in the middle there. But yeah, thank you for your patience if you stuck around, raiders. We got a tip rolling in as well. I need to acknowledge from Nymph. Thank you, Nymph, for tipping 27. The first 12 gets us 1 face camera expansion. 22 and 25 gets us 5 away. Wait, yeah. From the next one, who says, here's to 27 chapters of Dracula, now all complete. Thanks for the entertainment. Well, here we go. Let's go ahead and expand. Just do. It's time to hit the most obnoxious face camera expansion, the Tony Stark helmet cam. Lowering that now to 60%. Everybody who's tipped up to this point has been making the camera more obnoxious. It can't fill any more of the screen at this point, but it will keep dropping in show opacity with every milestone we hit. We are currently 5 away from the next expansion. I would be thrilled if folks wanted to tip. If you enjoyed the show, I just bought a ticket to visit my beautiful, beloved, betrothed Badger Spanner in London in a few months, and I'm very excited about that trip, but that was a lot of my savings. But I am super excited to hang out with her, meet her friends and family there. But helping me with those savings would be really appreciated. We've got all sorts of kind words in the chat. Sapphire Smith says, I'll miss Dracula days. Well, we are still going to be reading stuff on Saturday nights. We're just not going to be reading Dracula. So even though we've been reading Dracula for 27 weeks, for a long time before that, Saturday night was reading night. We would just read short stories and goofy stuff. This was our first time reading something longer than a few days. Because we had done A Christmas Carol before, which is like 5 nights or 4 nights. But, yeah. So thank you to everyone. Falcon Claw says, it's okay, Joe, presumably coming in from the Cub fan raid. I enjoyed listening to the last bit of the chapter. It was pretty interesting. Artemis709 says, it was brilliant. Thank you. Grace Windeer says, next up, 27 chapters of Dracula.
Oh, God.
You offend Dracula.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
I don't think we're going to start over in the ooh-woo voice.
Oh, well. Why for my happiness?
Yeah. Pray for my happiness, my friend Mina.
Oh, no.
Nina F says, I have no idea how I'll keep track of the weeks anymore without Dracula. Well, I don't sell calendars, so that's probably on me. I'll look into it. That's going to be back half of the year, probably getting the merch store going. But I am seriously moving forward with a lot of this stuff. I got to get the business incorporated, got to get set up for sales tax, lots of stuff.
Yay, fun times.
NJ says, all I picture here is Muppet Babies. That's the thing, is I don't know enough about like ooh-woo culture. I just assume it's Muppet Babies. I just do Muppet Babies. I don't know what it actually is.
I just copy Cleo.
Badger Dig says, I've never read Dracula before, so this is the first time I've experienced the novel outside of pop culture references. Well,
Ooh.
hey, I am glad to have the opportunity to help you broaden your horizons. There's going to be all sorts of great books out there that, like, you're like, man, everybody references this, but I've never read it. I really hope this encourages you to pick one of them up. We're not going to have time to do all of them here on the stream. I can't be responsible for your education. I blame the schools. But we will be reading more of the out of print, incredible stuff that is out there. Probably for the next few weeks, we're going to be focusing on more short-term stuff. No, we're still working on the paperwork for the visa, Stephanie. It ended up being a lot more complicated. It turns out visas are complicated for getting people to immigrate, apparently. Yeah. So we're almost done with the paperwork, but I thought that, oh yeah, we'll just fill some stuff out and then we'll get going. But they're like, we need proof of this. We need a criminal background check. We need this document. Reach out to the county where you were born. It's been a lot more.
That takes weeks at a time.
Yeah.
So that's fun.
It turns out immigration is complicated. So thank you, Badger,
So
for
just-
loving me enough to want to deal with it.
Just proving you exist as well.
Oh yeah, that's the crazy thing
amazing.
is, like, there's a lot of paperwork that just goes into proving that I'm a real person. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, okay, so for this immigration thing, they're gonna need a bunch of stuff about Badger. We'll get that sorted. But then it's like,
It's
oh,
like,
we also
you
need a
think
ton of stuff
they
about
would-
you. And I'm like,
Yeah,
oh,
you just need your like social security number or something like that. And that's it.
it's like, nope, they need a ludicrous amount of stuff. I got to go for a biometric screening to make sure that I'm actually me and not someone impersonating me. It's like bonkers how much stuff
sometimes.
they need. The plane ticket has been purchased. That's what we were talking about.
Yes. But yeah, the
To go-
announcement that it was not really an announcement. It was more of a thing to discuss afterwards.
What was more of a thing to discuss afterwards?
The thing we were doing, you were talking.
Oh. So a lot of y'all know that I have been working on okay, I'm going to back up a little bit. So some of you may know, especially because we got Cub fan readers. I shouldn't assume too much. I've got a Patreon Discord that folks can get into for $5 a month. And one of the activities that I've run for the Discord in the past has been D&D and Pathfinder one-shots. And I wanted to start running some Call of Cthulhu one-shots that were set up kind of the same way as the Pathfinder bounties, because the Pathfinder bounties are designed to be 1 or 2 hour one-shots to get new people into the game. And I ran into with D&D and a lot of other games that the starter one-shots are like 3 to 5 hours. And that's too long for me and my patrons to like plan a session. It seems like getting people together for an hour or two is on the edge of plausibility, but 3 to 5 is just too much, right? So I've been brainstorming a way to introduce people to the Call of Cthulhu RPG. I've played a few games of that. It's really fun. It's kind of set in the, there's 2 time periods you can set it in primarily, the 1920s or the modern day. And I was like, okay, so I want to take what I've learned from running all these Pathfinder bounties, 1 or 2 hour adventures, and create a 1 or 2 hour Cthulhu adventure. And I realized to make it more accessible, I could set it up to be, I could use, instead of like a complex map of the city of Arkham or somewhere in Massachusetts, I could use something more familiar to people, like a clue board. And I could call it Call of Cthulhu. And it would just be an introduction to Call of Cthulhu that we use the clue board for, like, we explore the mansion and we try to figure out who murdered, like, which cult is responsible for these weird ritualistic murders and what are they trying to do and how do we stop them. It's not exactly Clue. I'm not reskinning Clue. I'm kind of just using the rough frame story as a setting for a Call of Cthulhu one-shot. So is everybody with me so far? Any questions so far? Because we're about to get weird with this. We haven't yet. Etho's here! Etho loves it when things get weird. Howdy, Etho!
Speaking of things getting weird.
Yeah, speaking of things getting weird, Etho's here.
As this is kind of your thing, it is currently 5 a.m.
Oh,
here.
Yeah. If you need to go, please go to bed. Thank you for joining us at 5 a.m. UK time.
You are incredibly welcome, and I can't wait to read more stuff with you. It'd be great fun.
I'm really looking forward to it already. Bye, gorgeous. Have a
Night,
fantastic night.
Bye.
Bye. I'm going to disconnect from there. And let's see, we got a tip rolling in. Matthew tips 5, who says, this is toward my favorite expansion, Dr. T. Joe Eckhilsberg. Here we go. It's time to expand Geost. Do. And we are going to lower the opacity now to 50%. Okay. So let me pull this down even a little bit. Everybody, a lot of folks wishing Badger a good night as well. Oh, I need to turn my sound back on in this game or I'm going to die. Hostile creatures back on as well. Friendly creatures back on. Okay. So, here we go. Where were we? Let's think for a second. Okay. So, Call of Cthulhu. The idea is to create a one-shot that I can run for my Patreon patrons and possibly during charity events for like other YouTubers or whatever, or people who pay for the slots at the charity events. And Mantigag says, steer clear of Etho when Doc is on. You could be collateral damage. Well, the way Doc works, I could be collateral damage any time of day. Doc doesn't need to be online to cause damage. But okay, so where were we? Okay, so Call of Cthulhu. I came in and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do a bunch of research on the books. I'm reading through all of the source books. I did a bunch of research on the history of the game Clue, different interpretations of it in different settings, like the film, different computer game variants, Clue Junior novels, all that stuff. Trying to figure out what would be a good way to tell a story like this as kind of an homage to Clue, but not. It's an homage to Clue you play on the Clue board, but it's not. We're not doing this. You're not playing as Professor Plum, right? You're playing as your own character who might be a professor. You know, we might have a professor character in there. We might have a military retiree in there, right? But you're not playing as Colonel Mustard from the movie, right? So, one of the things I got hung up on was, how do I get people, like, who is a compelling host for this dinner party? One of the reasons I wanted to do the dinner party as the frame story is because that's an excuse for the players' characters to not know each other. Because in a lot of role-playing games, when you're trying to get a first session out the door, you're like, you have to figure out how long the characters have known each other and why and all this stuff, right? And I'm like, okay, this is going to be for patrons who are like maybe dropping in last minute. We're not going to have a lot of time to sort that stuff out. We're not running a full campaign, right? So, here's what I came up with. One of the things I wanted to do was, because I knew I was going to be running this for several groups of my patrons, I did a head count on how many people were interested in playing this adventure, or this one shot, and the answer was like 40. So I was like, okay, I'm not gonna run the same exact adventure 7 times. I'm gonna need some sort of thing where, like Clue, where in Clue there's a different murderer every time. Maybe I have like 7 variants of this, or 6 variants of this, right? Some number of variants of this, and then the idea is that the players don't know which variant they're playing. And some elements of it are going to be randomized, like where the important objects are. Like, hey, if there's an idol to an ancient god, the room it's hidden in will be randomized. It might not be hidden. Like, you walk into the room and there's just this 6-foot-tall idol to an ancient god, but it's not going to be in the same room every time, right? So that way, the patrons who aren't playing can listen in on the call and have a different experience. Or if I run it on a charity event, it's not exactly the same every time, right? Tabra says rolling tables are great for that. Exactly. So part of the benefit of using the clue board as the map is I could say, okay, each possible, so there, like, I might have like 6 different cults that might be the culprit. And I might have 9 different locations for where the artifact is that the players need to find to confront the cult successfully. And that's going to be hidden in one of the 9 rooms in the mansion, right? And so I was like, okay, from a story standpoint, I got to figure out what are the cult's motivations, or what are, like, each one needs to be interesting and terrifying and in a different way. And then I was trying to figure out, too, the owner of the mansion. Who do we care about? What kind of person would own a mansion that you'd be invited to a dinner like this at in the 1920s, right? Because the 1920s is the setting. Okay, so let's see. So I started thinking, like, the 1920s. Who do we know in the 1920s that would be... What's an interesting 1920s archetype? We've got, like, Jay Gatsby. Okay? You know, he's a bootlegger. He's new money. He's got his buddy Nick, who lives in, like, the house on the estate. You know, what that's in the public domain. Boy, what else from the public domain is in the 1920s that I could maybe draw from here? And you know what I realized isn't from the 1920s? It's from 1895 to 1897 or so. But the characters would logically still be alive. Most of them. I'm just going to jump in and give you a quick sample of what I've been working on here. I thank each and every one of you for joining me for dinner here tonight in the home of my father. As you may realize, I have asked each of you to use a pseudonym in the invitation I sent you to maintain doctor-patient confidentiality. While he is not here, I desire that his wishes be respected on such matters. You may not know that my father actually vanished from his office 4 weeks ago. A large pool of blood, too much blood, was left on the floor, the walls, everywhere. 10 of his patient files were also stolen, and I have worked backward from his indexes to determine the identities of those 10 people. 4 of them are not here tonight because they were each murdered on a sequential Saturday following my father's disappearance. The 6 remaining folks are all here today in this dining room. I cannot imagine what ties all 10 of these people together, and with only 6 of us, we may struggle to determine that ourselves. However, it is once more Saturday, and were we not all gathered here, it is likely that one of you would be murdered this very night. And so, I hope that you all see why it is important to me to determine if my father yet lives, and to ensure that whatever dark forces may be at work, that they do not bring any further harm to the men and women in this room. So a lot of folks here are guessing Tom Sawyer, JFK, Kennedy. But meanwhile, Mahi Zero and Kindleless are guessing Dr. Seward and Dr. Seward Jr. That's right. So I figured out that for each of the different cults, I would have the host be a different member of the Dracula cast's next generation, if you will. So in each case, the Mr. Body figure, the missing person, or the murdered person, is one of the characters from Dracula. And their son or daughter or niece or nephew would be the one that has invited you to dinner because something in the notes of this missing or dead person indicate that you might be able to help and that you might be in danger, right? So in the case of Quincy Morris, I was thinking I would have something along the lines of Quincy Morris's illegitimate daughter, because he died before he got married. In the cases of the other characters, it would be like Dr. Van Helsing has gone missing, and you were each some of his most prominent pupils, each some of his proteges. In the case of the Harkers have gone missing, and the people that are brought in are each people who have made real estate deals with them. They've been their customer base in the past, right? For Quincy Morris, because he can't go missing because he's already dead, he's been mysteriously appearing. He's been seen by people who then died. Former adventurer associates of his, right? And so the people assembled at the dinner would be like an aviator, a scuba diver, somebody who leads safaris, like all the people that are kind of representative of his rough and tumble life. So he has somehow become undead, would be the premise of that one, and has been seen by other people. And so my goal is to roll up a different set of character sheets for each of these adventures too, so that they play out very differently. Because like the people who buy real estate from the Harkers would be very different from the proteges of Van Helsing. I love the idea that Van Helsing, because he was an expert in like 8 different things, it's like, his protege of law, his protege of medicine, his protege of psychiatry, his protege of religious studies, right? You get 8 people, or you get 6 people in a room that add up to one Dr. Van Helsing type of thing. So that'll be a fun way for us to kind of continue our exploration of Dracula lore in a more interactive way. And it also kind of frees me up to mix in some things. Not really that I need to be freed up, because the Cthulhu Mythos books are very clear. Like, you don't have to stick to only stuff Lovecraft wrote. You can make stuff up yourself. And that's fantastic. So, like, the other thing is, it's probably going to be, like, it's like you're not going to be trying to figure out, which of these famous Cthulhu gods is this cult of? Is this a cult of Nyarlathotep or of the Yellow King? Like, you're probably going to be trying to figure out, like, what type of ancient god the cult worships. Like, is it a god that represents a splinter of time, or like something more abstract, right? And like the clues and the experiences that you encounter in each room should reflect that. Is like, so determining like what the cult worships will help you determine how to foil them. And the encounters, like when you go into the conservatory, if you're dealing with like a cult that deals with like time manipulation, the plants being at different ages when you visit the conservatory each time would be a clue that like, there's something with time manipulation going on. That's like a stupidly easy example, just for example's sake. But that's kind of that's kind of the core concept I'm looking at as I'm brainstorming this. And I'm feeling like I'm in a really good place with it. For Van Helsing, he explicitly says he doesn't have a son, so I was going to have the person who invites you be his, like, nephew or niece or something. I want all of the people inviting... I want it to be Dracula the Next Generation. But, once again, it's not necessarily going to be sons and daughters, because not everybody is going to have those. So, I'm really excited about this project. I feel like I'm making good headway on it. And I'm at a point where I've got enough of the details solidified that I feel comfortable starting to discuss it publicly, so that when we do the signups, I'm probably gonna try and schedule out, like, I'm not gonna randomly surprise y'all with who the host is. I'm probably gonna say, hey, the Dr. Seward sign up is for this week. The Dr. Van Helsing sign up is for next week. The Harkers is the week after. And because in each one you would be playing different roles, like, hey, if you want to play a protege of Van Helsing, sign up for this week. If you want to play one of Dr. Seward's patients, sign up for this week. If you want to play somebody who has had a real estate deal with the Harkers, sign up this week. If you want to play somebody who worked for Lord Godalming, because his is actually probably going to be the working class one. Ironically, The other ones might have people from all the different classes, but his, I'm thinking it'll all be people who have worked for him, rather than leaning into the, well, he's a lord, so everybody there should be a lord and a lady, right? Because the thing is, they wouldn't invite other lords and ladies to something like this necessarily. They would try to hush it up if it affected them. They would deal with each person individually. But if there's something going on with his former staff, they would, yeah, get the chef or the cook or the driver or the maid, the butler, all them together, right? So if you wanted to play like a chauffeur, you would want to play in the Lord Godalming one. So I'm going to have a list of like what spots are open when I go live with this. This is not going to be this week. This is going to, we're still probably a month or two out on this. But it's starting to come along. Tabra says, this sounds more exciting, or this sounds exciting. I should pay more attention to the Discord server. Yeah, usually I'm going to mention it when I do signups for something like this in the streams. So, yeah. Van Helsing's protege of self-insert fanfiction writing. But yeah, so that way I get to revisit the voices of the characters too, because I know I'm gonna miss them, and this is gonna lighten that pain a little bit. Kindle says Van Helsing could have sown his oats post Dracula. He explicitly says that his wife is too old to have children, but I guess he could have remarried. I feel like just having a niece or nephew, that also keeps it more interesting if the relationships are different between the characters and their parents. Like, if Quincy Morris's illegitimate daughter never knew him, that's going to be a very different experience for her calling these people together than Dr. Seward's son or Lord Godalming's daughter or whatever, right? Mahi Zero says you could probably write these up formally and sell them. I would hope to write these up formally after I run them based on playtest data. I don't know if I'm going to sell them, though. Because realistically, the hassle of selling them is probably not worth the effort. It'd probably be better for me to just say thank you to the community and give them away at that point. But, like, I'm not saying I would never sell a D&D book ever. I don't have an ethical problem with it. But I want to have this finished way before I have the digital downloads part of the merch store done. And, you know. So that's just kind of where I'm at on that. Also, if you sell a D&D type, if you sell something like this, you're expected to have a lot more art featured in it. And I'm not going to have the money to pay an artist to work on this. Is the other thing. So if I'm just giving if I'm giving away a text-only PDF, that's fine. But charging for a text-only PDF feels like I'm not being a good player in the ecosystem, and that I should. But like, I'm not gonna make the money back if I hire an artist, and because I'm not that established. So it's like this whole thing. Basically, I'm better off just giving away the PDF. Devin Crotty says, could the downloads be a Patreon tier reward? I would rather, if I'm going to give them away, I'd rather give them away to everybody. Like, stuff like this is made to be played. Excuse me. But, like, you know, the idea is, though, that if this takes off, I would be more likely to do something bigger with better art, hiring people down the line. This is kind of a test run, right? Just use a bunch of Minecraft skins in F5 mode. Or stick figures, yeah. But like, I don't. This is the sort of thing like, you know, the benefit to the Patreon patrons is that they get to sign up to play this with me in the testing phase. So I like, you know, I feel like I'm not doing them a bad turn by giving it away to everyone. In the same way, like the YouTube videos are, everybody gets to watch the YouTube videos. Like the Patreon people are supporting me that in a way that allows me to make something like this free without stressing about it. Okay. Will the custom sprites and sounds be part of the Hermitcraft World download? Yes, because they're going to be part of a resource pack. Will we need custom mods to hear them? Because of the changes they're making in the new update, we're going to migrate all the custom horns and stuff to, or at least the custom music discs, to the new system that Mojang is doing with resource packs and mob heads when we update the world. So you shouldn't need mods, we're hoping. Right now, we do need mods to do it, but the world download isn't going to come out before then, so it'll be okay. But yeah. So anyway, I'm going to be continuing my Dracula scholarship as I do research for this event, or this series of events. Like I said, we're going to run at least 5 of these for the Patreon patrons. I'm going to try and probably run some of these as charity games as well for some of my friends, for like upcoming things like Draw for Charity. So y'all are going to be helping me get ready for that, and I'm very excited. That's the other thing too. Like, if the PDF is freely downloadable, then when I'm running this, like 90% of the time, if I'm running a stream of this, it would be for a charity game. I feel less weird about being like, hey, if you enjoyed this during the stream, go download the PDF for free at my website, versus like, hey, if you enjoyed watching this charity event, now I'm going to ask you for money a second time, but for me now. And that doesn't feel right. You know what I mean? So we're just going to keep it simple on this one. Womp. Speaking of begging for money, we are 20 even away from the next face camera expansion milestone, and tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. Hey, I see we got a new Patreon patron. Just so you know, I send out the invites for those in batches once per day, and you have... so you can expect to get that sometime tomorrow. I am not going to be running a batch of those tonight because it's pretty late already. But thank you so much to our newest patron. And I see somebody else also updated or upgraded their account level. So thank you very much for that. But yeah, those invites go out once per day in a batch. I like to do them all by hand so I can see who's coming in, say hello, make sure that we're not getting like a bajillion bots all at once or anything terrifying. You know, it helps me keep my finger on the pulse of the community, and also helps keep the community safe. So I appreciate your patience with that. A username I made is raiding with a party of 2. Welcome, a username I made. My name is Joe Hills. I'm broadcasting live from Nashville, Tennessee. We are just mining out the inside of my pinball machine here. We have started work on the outer walls of it. If I duck out of the way here, you can see it's based on the Deep Field Space Telescope galaxy images. We have kind of fake spray painted the name Deep Field on the side over here. Ooh. Although that's going to be covered over with more galaxy artwork soon. We're going to have the actual name of the machine up here on the translate when it's done. I haven't worked on the playfield too much yet. This thing is 128 meters wide, 256 meters deep. And if you're like, why would you make it those dimensions? Well, it's so that we can use it as a Minecraft map and sell pinball machine Minecraft maps at the end of the season. Also, it's at this scale that we can best create an elaborate Elytra course, which is nowhere near finished. We don't have any of the stuff for the Elytra course. Danny W says, will the name stay inside as an Easter egg? Yeah, I'm not going to take that down. Yeah, this Hermitcraft season, we're going to be going for another 9 to 12 months probably. So I have plenty of time to get all this knocked out. We are just doing some stone removal at the moment. Nothing too crazy. Just kind of having a chill day. We just finished reading the 27th and final chapter of Dracula, which we have been reading for 27 Saturdays in a row. Maybe not in a row. We took like Christmas and New Year's off. But 27 basically mostly sequential Saturdays we've been reading Dracula. So we're having a little bit of a chill wind down after the finale, talking about a tabletop role-playing game I'm working on, which has part of its premise rooted in the Dracula mythos. I think it's pretty logical that any of the characters from Dracula, if they ran into something kind of creepy with some sort of like Cthulhu-like cult, would probably get involved somehow. You know, they're like, oh, there's something weird here, kind of like with that Dracula guy. Maybe we should look into it, you know? So, I'm excited. Did an Enderman move something? What's that green block on the shooter lane? Oh, that's just a marker. Sometimes I put down, like, blocks that don't belong, so I know, like, hey, when you're counting, count from this block, not from the next one, or whatever. Because, like, this is such a big project, I walk away from individual parts of it for weeks at a time to focus on other things. So, like, leaving myself little stuff like that helps. No, it wasn't left by an Enderman. That was something I put there. And our inventory is full again. Can you imagine? But yeah, this is under sea level right here. We drained all this, and now we're mining it even lower. If you're looking for me, you better check under the sea level. That is where you'll find me. Underneath the sea level, mining out a pinball machine at the bottom of the sea. Yeah, so we actually need to go way deeper here, but I keep intersecting water. So I got kind of like, I'll just shave some off the top while I'm reading Dracula. Okay. Well, Lance Burrito, that's not the most appropriate C-Lab 2021 reference to make, as the Automod has obviously caught that. But that is indeed demonstrating a knowledge of the source material. So, thank you for engaging with the show. Sorry that Automod does not approve. Yeah, there's a lot of non-family friendly stuff in that show. Boy. Okay, so let's see. It is 11:30 at night. Normally, we wrap up our evening streams at around 10:30. But it's not a school night, so I've run about an hour long. I probably should start wrapping up soon. Let's go ahead and do a last call for tips. Tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. Since we were so focused on reading earlier, I didn't really get to talk to you all too much, so I'm enjoying getting to do so now. Thanks for sticking around. I see a lot of people are already calling it a night, though. Yeah, don't worry. I'm going to wrap it up probably in about 5 or 10 minutes. I just want to give a chance, if folks enjoyed the show and hadn't gotten the chance to tip and would like to, it is appreciated. Da 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 do 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 do. I should probably be putting torches along the inside of here too. That'll help. Because like these are all gonna get knocked out at some point. Oh, I was like, why are there so many torches here? It's because of the gravel, huh? We do need a ton of gravel. Yep, lay your head down into your dream, Gusty Gale. Kindle says, reading through the Call of Cthulhu Quick Start, it's a good intro to the game. The thing about it, though, is like the Pathfinder bounties is 30-something, like, or 40 1 to 2 hour good intros to the game. I would get bored if I ran the same quick start for every member of the Patreon server, right? Like, with the Pathfinder bounties, though, I can run 40 different games and then start over with the first one and be like, oh, yeah, wow, having run a few of these, this is interesting to run again, right? You know, so, like, part of why Mahi says, are you going to be in the Discord channel while you're streaming tomorrow? I was going to ask y'all what your comfort level with that was. I was originally thinking I would just commentate, but then I think it was Sammy. Somebody said, I'd love to hear what the people are saying. Will any of them be streaming? And I don't want to force myself into your space. Like, y'all earned your spots in this tournament. If y'all want to be able to play with your full focus, you don't want to worry about being on stream, I want to respect that. This is your day to shine, and I am showing up to celebrate that, not to interfere. Judah1, Tippin5 says, we appreciate you too, Joe. Thank you very much. That gets us 15 away from the next face camera expansion milestone. Yep, that's right. Our Hermitcraft fan community UHC is going to be tomorrow at noon. ZF is actually playing on his team's team. I didn't even know that was an option. I might reserve that option for myself in the future. But yeah, ZF is actually going to be playing on his own team's team. There's players from a bunch of other Hermitcraft servers, like different Patreon communities and whatnot, that they all had their own qualifying events. And the 4 best UHC players from each of the Hermitcraft communities that is participating are all going to be converging in one place tomorrow at noon Central Time. I'm going to be streaming my team's point of view, flying around in spectator mode. I'm not going to be, like, teleporting to all the other teams. I'm going to be in suspense right there with my team, cheering for them, and I am very excited. This is going to be a great time. Kindlelist says, we're just going for entertaining. Super serious is for competitive communities. Mahi says, I personally wouldn't mind you following along. We'll double check with Salem, and you know, I just don't want to. I just want to get a check from everybody beforehand, like, because I just I don't. Some people get more nervous about being on camera than others, right? You know, and this is not something that we had originally planned, and dumping this on somebody last minute could be upsetting or distressing. Distracting is the more distracting is the better word. I'm not worried. I don't think they would be really upset. I just think, like, some people would be more distracted if they knew they were on camera while they're playing a UHC, or if they were on mic, right? Because the other thing is, like, just because you have the ability to play in a game like that doesn't mean you also, like, if somebody doesn't have you know, if like, hey, you know, my sibling is going to be in the background running the blender, like, you know, that's one of those things too where, like, hey, I can play in this, but I can't necessarily be a good microphone host, you know? So we didn't warn people to expect to be on mic, and if everybody's cool with it last minute, that's fine, but that was never a requirement, and I don't want to drop that on anyone. Okay. Let's see. If the Hermit Fan UHC, I don't even know if they locked down all the rules yet, but we've got Salem, Void, Kindleless, Mahis are playing on our team, I believe. We had a couple of our alternates drop out last minute, so, which is fine as long as we don't need an alternate. If we do end up needing an alternate, we'll figure something out last minute. UHC is a ultimate hardcore or ultra hardcore. It's a Minecraft game mode based on Battle Royale, the Japanese film. I recommend you watch it as long as you are an adult. It's not a kids movie, but yeah, it's basically Minecraft Battle Royale. Go see the original film in Japanese with subtitles. We do have at least one alternate. Okay, great. I wasn't sure because I know some of our alternates actually made the team when we did the second competition, and then we had at least one alternate say, like, hey, we got invited to something, we can't make it. So we do have at least one alternate though. Good. We're all set. Okay, fantastic. Okay. So, anyway, we did the last call for tips about 5 to 10 minutes ago, and that's how long I said I was going to keep going. Doesn't look like anything's still processing. So, let's go see what is happening out there in the rest of the world, a lot of state championships in pinball today. Like I said, we were at the Tennessee one earlier. But the thing is, those tournaments aren't always easy to follow if they're not set up for streaming. Problem is, that means like nobody else I follow in pinball is streaming because they're all at the state championship events. Boy. Well, Ray Day knows what he's doing. Let's go ahead and do the Illinois State Finals. That's a super competitive pinball tournament. Illinois is where Chicago is. Chicago is where they make pinball machines. So I don't know how the audio quality is going to be, but this is what I'm going to be watching after this. Whoops, I forgot to /raid a pinball. And our raid messages. Howdy y'all, Joe Hill's raid here. It looks like they're playing Godzilla right now. And I don't know who is actively up. It doesn't say. It says scene 3. Yeah, it doesn't have the names of the active players, but hopefully there's some commentary when you get over there. Howdy y'all, Joe Hill's right here. And until next time, y'all, this is Joe Hills from Nashville, Tennessee. Keep adventuring. Stop.